This week on RSBANDB Update, League 6 Demonic Pacts is just a few days away and the theorycrafting has begun. Hard choices have been made, but it's clear that the theorycrafting is far from over. Regions, relics, and impactful pacts shape the path of League 6. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 1084, recorded Saturday, April 11th, 2026. Impactful choices. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week, a bit of a different episode of Update for you guys. We are going to be doing a theorycrafting episode on the Demonic Pacts OSRS League. And the reason we're doing this is because I plan on playing it, and it's just an interesting thing to talk about given what we experienced with the RS3 League. So this week, joining us there from OSRS Update fame and archaeology, the archaeology area, Sirion, welcome back to the show.
Hello, hello.
One of the RSBANDB Update RS3 to OS converts as a result of the dreaded H word, I'll say. Not necessarily because of the H itself, but because of the reaction to H.
Yeah, I will not get started on this because we want to get the show on the road,
past.
and this discussion is going to get the show off the road very quickly.
It's in the past. It's in the past.
Yes.
And Pernasius, everybody's second favorite Australian, has been playing a bit of OS on the side and is going to be dipping his feet into this league here. You haven't done an OS league before, and you are not really familiar with a bunch of these regions, so it's going to be a trial by fire for you.
That's it. It's going to be a bit of an experience, and I don't expect to unlock Dragon like I did on RS3, but it's going to be a fun thing to go through, and especially hearing from people who have done it all before and sort of working out how I'm going to go via your experiences.
Excellent. And of course, we also have Dave, Arcane. Welcome back. You play both games. We talked to you a lot for OSRS Update, but I think the biggest thing that you're known for, and the thing that many folks might not know, is that you composed the wonderful intro and outro music for us here.
That I did. No. How's it going, guys? Always happy to be here.
With real instruments, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know
some of the post-production got a little wonky, so there's debate there. But yeah, no, real instruments. Gosh, it's been over 10 years ago. I still remember writing all that. So, but yeah, no, happy to be here. Always glad to lend my opinions and planning, especially on these theory crafting episodes. So.
Excellent. And, a big, huge thank you goes out to our experienced tier Patreon members, because without them, we would not be doing this show. This week, that is Amos Reed, Bladecom, Dominic R., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Julia W., Keski, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Ricky A., Sioasis, Smavin, Snail Mage, The Naked Captain, and Tim. If you want to hear more about our Patreon offerings, we'll talk about that a little bit later in the podcast. But in the meantime, if you want to follow along, full show notes can be found over at update.show, including transcripts. We don't talk about the transcripts enough, but we have transcripts for the episodes now, which makes them infinitely searchable. So if you're wanting to know specifically when we mentioned one specific thing, that's what the transcript is for. And it also makes it very interesting to do a whole lot of things we could never do with the podcast before. But that can be found over at update.show. We also have the friends chatting game at Bits Bytes and the community Discord over at update.show/Discord. All right. Demonic Pacts Leagues, League 6 of OSRS. So bit of a brief rundown for the folks who might be joining us for the first time. What is a league? What is the best way to describe this? Let's go to you, Sirion, on that one.
What is the best way to describe a league? I mean, the boring way is to say it is a temporary game mode where you start over on a fresh account as an Iron Man with highly accelerated XP rates, drop rates, and everything you want, and you get sort of a choice of different powers to make your account ultra powerful. What it really, the fun way to describe it is like, it's a crazy sandbox where you get to do things that are completely impossible in the main game, I suppose. But it is like the progression is completely separate from like your main account. It's a little bit like a fresh start world in that sense. But it's sort of tuned up to like 5,000 when it comes to like all of the kinds of extra powers and extra things you can do, just to make things interesting. And because it's a temporary game mode, they've built in a whole bunch of choice. And this is the kind of choice where you choose one thing and everything else is sort of, you can't pick that again unless you start over with a new account. So everybody has sort of their own path. And it's not that you get everything in the end. You really have to sort of make smart decisions.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing I think that a lot of the people who did the RS3 League last year with us will remember is that it comes down to that idea of decisions and a temporary game mode that's separate from your main account, and that's the biggest thing I think I'd like to hone in on there for that. And, you know, one of the things we do want to just briefly touch on as well is just how these leagues are going to be different than the RS3 League we had last year. And many folks will remember our theory crafting episode last year. Pern, you remember this. With the exception of one or two, we all ended up with the same relics on that episode.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which I can guarantee you is not going to happen on this episode. That is not going to happen on this episode. And that leads to the fact that there's been 6 incarnations of these, which leads to a series of more complex decisions that need to be made. One of which is region locking. And we discussed that immensely on the RS3 side. Dave, when we look at this, how are you feeling coming into this one compared to the RS3 one, knowing that you have to pick 3 regions now?
Well, I mean, I've played Leagues 4 and 5, which have been region locked, but coming from RS3, I think a lot of people are kind of against the whole region locking, but as we saw in the RS3 leagues, there's a lot of content. It's very not overwhelming, but there's a lot to do. And I could get on a side tangent of what I didn't like about RS3 leagues with how many quests were not auto-completed. And I feel like that took so much steam out of my sails, especially with everything being available, right? So I think region locking is good. It's enough to kind of focus and drill down. And even if there are some quests to do there, I think it's a lot better. And it gives you more of a kind of a focused goal. So no, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it lets you focus too on regions that are some of which are more PVM centric than others, some of them more skilling centric. And like if you wanted to, in theory with this one, you could choose a region that has no rune essence mine and no herb patches. Choose a set.
Yeah, I think this is the thing I like most about region locking, right? Like this is one of the things when I played RS3 leagues, like all of your training methods that are available in the main game are available to you in leagues as well. So what your character journey looks like compared to like if you started like a new Iron Man on the main game, you do the exact same thing because all of your best XP per hour and your best money makers are still there. And yes, you can use the relics to sort of speed things up, but everybody is going to use those to speed up the slower skills. Whereas with region locking, like immediately you're locked out of the majority of good training methods because a lot of them are localized in a specific region and you can never unlock all of them. So you need to find like an interesting mix of, what am I going to solve by unlocking a region and what am I going to solve by, taking a relic that allows me to take like a completely new training method and make it actually relevant again. So like you mentioned, like maybe you don't have access to a rune essence mine because you didn't pick like one of the regions with one of the teleports, but then you pick one of the regions that allows you to transmute air runes into pure essence, and you solve that problem in a different way. And all of a sudden, there's actually different choices and different solutions you can find. It makes the game more interesting.
Yeah, I want to hear about you. We'll talk about it later in Relics, Dave. I want to hear about what you're doing for rune crafting because you are the rune crafting, the OS rune crafting person here. For that.
So. I was a rune crafter before RuneSpan was a thing, and that was a whole debacle. Back when our biggest problem was a RuneSpan debacle, that was the golden age, I'll tell you that. But no. So
The other thing that came to mind, and I am just so happy that we get to look into this, is that on the RS3 League, combat choice was very bland. If you wanted a power fantasy, you went for melee. Otherwise, you picked the style that you most liked. Whereas this one, we have about 130 nodes in an entire skill tree that we can pick for combat choice this time.
And permeate that out, we got like what 18.6 billion different technical, combinations.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Siron. What are the total number of combinations here, and is there?
Oh, I don't know, because you have to look at what is actually a valid connected graph.
That's
because
true,
there's all kinds of rules. But yeah, no, ridiculous number, which I think is interesting, right? Because even so, back in Leagues 4. It was the same as in RuneScape, right? Where I think like Relic 4, you picked like one of the combat styles, and that combat style was just really good for you. Then in Leagues 5, Raging Echoes, they actually decided, this is not really interesting. We're going to split this out, right? So that your relics are really, there's some combat benefits in there, but we're making them more skilling focused. And then combat progression is separate. And that allowed you to actually pick like different styles. But also hybrid a little bit, and also it's not like it used to be like an on and off thing where you would just not do any combat until you got your combat relic, and then you would just from that point onward it wouldn't really change anymore. And they made that a little bit more fine grained so that you got some of the benefits first, then you need to kill some bosses to get more benefits, and it sort of turned more into a cycle. And basically they're turning this up to the maximum right now. Because what we find, I won't go too much into it because I think we will discuss more about
we're going to spend a lot of time on that tree. And then another thing that this league brings that's different is a series of echo bosses, which are bosses that are have a slightly different take than their main game counterpart. And I think the classic example of this is the Calphite Queen. Calphite Queen is a boss from 05. It is brain dead to kill. The Echo version of it makes it not brain dead to kill, and each of the Echo bosses drops a specific piece of equipment that has specific benefits and stats that are beneficial to the league in one way or another. And they vary in difficulty as well. I think Calphite Queen is on the easier side of them.
Hespora is probably one of the easier ones, but yeah, Calphite Queen is not too bad. Yeah.
And that can also inform your region choice as well. If you want a piece of equipment from an Echo boss, or if you want an easy Echo boss kill, that can inform your decision on what region to pick as well. So
I did hear that they did amp up some of the Echo bosses this time around.
Oh, that could be interesting. Could be very interesting. So, and then that leads us to the big question. Why don't we just log in on Wednesday and just go?
Some people do that, and you know what? More power to them. I could not bring myself to do that.
There are even people that roll random, like that literally use like a random roll every time they have like a choice.
That gives me mega anxiety.
Could you imagine that?
Season. I try not to. It's like league season is so good. As soon as we get that first reveal, it's just like it's all systems go. And some people argue, and I'm kind of the mindset, but almost, the league's reveal and everything leading up to the leagues is just as fun, if not slightly more fun, to plan where you're going to go. And then you execute it, you're doing it, but it's like, oh my gosh, you're going through all these spreadsheets and stuff. Well, I do, so I'm calling myself out. But you're going through all these spreadsheets and different, how am I going to solve every single skill and stuff, which I do have if we want to go over that. But no, I love the just call it league season. So,
I have spreadsheets for tasks as well, and the task list will be determining my final region amongst other things in relation to that, and that also determines the path that I take in relation to getting points. And the classic example of that is choosing clues over something else. And I'll just go back to the RS3 one since we know how that one went on that. There were about 3,000 points in the clue task set last time. So I figured, I'll choose the clue relic. And I got about 2,200 of those points, which is good because that was a nice springboard up. But the thing is that I could have chosen something that would have enhanced skills and let me get more 50 mil skills faster, which again would have been more than those 2,200 points. So you kind of have to weigh those two things out about which way you want to go.
And would have been more fun.
Yeah, probably. And when go ahead.
Yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. It is add up. But like one of the things I really enjoy about League season as well, it's not like 2 weeks ahead of time to just drop all of the information and they say like go with it, right? I think Jagex has the reveal cadence down to a T at this point. And they know exactly what they're doing by basically, they reveal something and everybody like builds like these builds and the meta, and then they reveal something that completely invalidates the whole thing. And everybody throws everything away.
Like today's relic. Over. Infinite food.
Yeah, exactly. That was the one from today. I'm like, oh god. And every day I have to like, do I need to change my plan? Do I need to start over? Does everything still work? And I think, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but the more real reason the theory crafting is so important here and the planning is so important is because if you're not careful, you can region lock yourself out of training methods. And with the combat system this time, you could even soft lock yourself out of being able to have an effective combat build if you were to throw something together and for some reason you can't smack one of the echo bosses to get a reset. So it's very, very important to make sure that you have a general plan. So
yeah, I think it's important to introduce like one term of terminology that we will be using a lot, which is we say we solve things or we have a solve. Typically what we are trying to do if we look at leagues is we look at all of the skills, and for all of the skills we want a training method to get it to like 99 or at least high enough for it to be useful. So we want to solve for all of them, and then there's like a few other solves. So usually you want to have a solve for like clue teleports, for example. You want to make sure you can do clues effectively. You want to have a GP solve, you want to have enough gold. So there's a few things that you want to have like solves essentially. And this is why sometimes you also need to be careful, right? Like some relics synergize really well with each other, but some of them also overlap, right? And you don't really want to solve like 5 skills really well in 5 different ways. But then, you have no way of training runecrafting, and here you are just running runecrafting back and forth to like the fire altar because that's the best way you have, right? And you're not going to have a good time. So that if you see us mentioning that when we talk about relics and regions,
I think that's one of the biggest things I'm going to find between RS3 and OS is gold. How to make your money, because RS3, I mean, you sit down and you're printing money. I mean, it's so easy over there, and I'm even finding it just because. Yeah, as listeners know, on my main account, because it's maxed, I started playing some OS RS just to get a feel of it and to see, because we knew these leagues were coming up, and I was sort of saying, well, I'll have a play around, see if I can pique my interest in it and do it that way. And and it did. It piqued my interest, and obviously that's why I'm here. But one of the hardest things I'm finding is making gold. And
we'll get into the gold solve, because I have a rather roundabout one that I plan on using.
It's interesting because last leagues we had Golden God, which was like an amazing solve, and the one before we had Fire Sale. Like usually there's like one relic that just solves gold, and I don't think there's going to be one this time, and I love it.
But that's the thing. I mean, and that's what I'm finding, because I had a look at some of the older relics, so I'm thinking, I'll just look at the old ones to see what's coming up. But they're all different.
I was going to say, they got rid of quite a few staples, like Banker's Note's not coming back, Total Recall's not coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
Fire Sale, stuff like that. So yeah, you're really having to...
Oh my god, I've been seeing the community like planning their builds around Banker's Note and Last Recall, and everyone was like, oh, it's gonna come back, it's a staple. And I'm like, how good? I don't think so. And I've been loving
I messaged you and I said Banker's Note will totally be the other tier 7 next to Reloaded, right?
That's exactly what I thought, and they dropped. I was like, whoa. All right then.
But how good is that each league has has differences, and
Mhm.
I think good on the developers because they've really kept that interest up, and I'm seeing just as many people excited about this leagues as about leagues number one, and we're 6 iterations in. I mean, I think that's kudos to the developers for that.
And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And with that, we kind of get into exactly what we're going to be doing this league and what our general plans are. Does anybody want to go specifically first on this?
I'll go last because I am the noob and I'm
Maybe we'll
I'm
influence some
still
of
up
your
in there.
picks.
Okay.
Exactly right. I
Well,
want to hear what you guys have to say, and
all right. Well, I'll just jump off the deep end and I'll say that my general goal this time is to actually have a progression path that produces points in a very quick way and to not get myself frustrated with getting stuck. And I've spoken many times before that the big learning experience that I took away from the RS3 League is that I need to pick the relics that effectively provide the options to snowball points. So my general goal here is to effectively be able to build paths forward between each specific relic, between each specific region, and then alongside of that, hopefully we can have some sort of combat experience that is going to result in me being able to do a good portion of the PVM that is going to be necessary for the league, in addition to things that I might want to try along the edge that have kind of eluded me in the past because I'm not the biggest OS PVM person, and that gets into my past experiences with this to the point. What did I have last region? I had Kandarin, Fremennik, and Desert, and I managed to kill the Echo Dag Kings and the Echo KQ no problem. But that region set for me last time really wasn't conducive to producing a spiraling of points. So I'm hoping that this time I'm gonna have a bit of a better time with that, and that of course has left a big glaring alert sign over my head about oh well, maybe I shouldn't choose desert because there are a lot of things in the desert region last time that bothered me with that. So in general, if I was to just sum it up, it comes down to being able to choose the relics in a way that are going to be able to generate the most points at the tier that they're at and get me into the next set of relics and regions quicker than I had in the past. I don't have any preconceived goals about where I want to finish point wise or actually getting to the end of the relic set. Anyways, go ahead, Pern.
And I was just going to say, just for new listeners, Shane swapped halfway through the RS3 from his Necro build into.
It's not happening here. Not happening here. It's not happening here. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's very important, and I'll kind of piggyback on that. I will say that my main goal is Dragon Trophy. That's what I got in 4 and 5, so I kind of want to get the trifecta here. So that's my biggest goal. I don't know if we want to get into regions just yet, but I had my 3 regions, and going off of what Shane said, I rearranged them for that exact reason. Is I don't want to pick a region and then get kind of stun locked in that region without points because I don't have either the power level combat wise or the skilling level skilling wise to get me to that next region. So I swapped all of mine around, and I think I'm going to be in a good place to get those early points, get those early tasks in, get everything sort of unlocked, and then I can kind of go back and get all the training stuff going and really take advantage of each of my 3 zones. So yeah.
Perfect. Sirion?
Yeah, for me, last time I kind of did want to go for Dragon Trophy, but then I didn't really commit to the grind. I think I ended up on Rune, but I'm still like on an increasing line. I think about like Animate Rune. So who knows? Maybe I will get Dragon this time. That would be a nice sort of, line. But for me, I think when I look at what relics I pick, I don't necessarily look at efficiency. I look at fun, right? I want to do things that I can't really do in the main game. Like this is why I picked Golden God last time, right? It ended up being the best one.
And I wish I did that too.
Meta-wise anyway. But it was also like that's the stuff where you make so much money that you're high alching in the background and you're just leaving piles of like 2 million coins on the ground because your cash stack in your inventory is full, right?
Wow.
No, but that unlocked like crazy things like training construction by building crystal thrones repeatedly with magic stones that you just buy in the shop, right? The kind of crazy shenanigans is typically what I look for in leagues because that's sort of fun. In terms of actual goals, I do tend to sort of use these goals to explore like the things that my main is about to get to. So sort of unofficial goals, I guess, is I want to get a mega rare. I've never had one, only in Gridmaster, which doesn't really count. So I want to try and get a mega rare, which means I need to unlock at least one raid. I want to finish Inferno and I want to finish the Colosseum, both of which I've done on Gridmaster, but let's be honest, Gridmaster doesn't count because that you could just cheese the heck out of all of the PVM content.
And you could have everything at the end, right?
Yes. So for people who don't know, Gridmaster was a short temporary event we had a few months ago. They basically took the relics of Leagues 5, but put them on a bingo board, which meant essentially you could get all of the relics. And at that point, it like you did such ridiculous damage. It was it was kind of funny. That was a real power fantasy.
And that's the thing too. I think that we talked about power fantasy a lot last year on the RS League, but to the people who had not done a league before, it wasn't clear what myself, you, and Dave were missing when we were talking to the others like Pern, Tanis, and Bears. They really were not, having that same feeling of missing out that we had in that league. What about you?
Old school leagues is always one of those things where after you go back to the main game, you're like, was my crossbow always this slow? Right?
It's like sprinting through concrete, and I think that was one of our show titles. It felt like, as soon as you go back to the normal XP rate, you're like, wow, it takes this long to get 4 magic logs. What is going on?
Exactly.
So very fun.
Oh no, I suffered a bit of that because I did get the Dragon Cup in the other. I got the full points so I could unlock the whole shop, and when I went back onto the GIMP account, it's going, oh, you're kidding! Why am I taking so long? What's happening here?
Yeah.
All right, Pern, what are your plans and thoughts here?
In all honesty, I'm mainly going to be guided today off you guys because I haven't done it before. I've never been to Valamor. So I'm starting off in an area I know nothing about, and as I'm sort of sitting here looking through and planning, sort of yesterday I spent a few hours just going through everything, reading our Clan Quest Discord to see what everyone's doing there and such.
I feel so sorry. I've been part of the discussions in that channel, and I know that at this point there's like
it did get a bit of tedious at point, yeah. But yeah, anyway, we won't go there. But yeah, just going through, and I'm sitting now. Am I going to go into Kourend, because I haven't been to Kourend either, and just sort of have a look at those areas and get a feel of it before I go back
is a good skilling and starting region.
And that's where, again, I'm probably going to do mainly skilling on this one rather than a whole lot of PVM, just because I don't know the bosses. But it's also going to give me the chance towards the end of it to start learning some of those bosses and just seeing what they're about.
Let's keep that in mind then as we go through that. Pern wants something that's primarily skilling focused, and
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is Ascania, Mauritania, and
Well, that was my build that I had. I thought, well, I'll just do Asgarnia, I'll do Mauritania, and because I know those areas. But
you should ask Shane about the very first League's mistake he ever made in
I
League
chose
4.
Asgarnia as my first region.
That's
Asgarnia,
rough. That's
Asgarnia
rough.
Yeah.
is a top tier PVM region.
I was going to say that's PVM range. Okay.
I
would have
took-
thought it would have been a higher tier skilling area.
No.
Yeah, I took that as my second region last leagues. I didn't regret it, but I definitely realized that probably wasn't the play. So yeah.
Fair enough.
Ascania is because it has the God Wars dungeon. It has which is
Well, that's
like,
why I
that's
liked it. Because I
is-
know God Wars, and I thought that's the boss I can do.
It has Whisperer, which is one of the harder bosses. It has what other PVM does it
Next.
has? Cerberus.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
Cerberus is one I've heard a lot about off another listener, Thieves, over there. So I wanted to give that a try and things like that. So, but what I'm hearing is it may not be the best thing for me now.
Well, going back to Karen, actually the very first old school leagues was only locked to Karen, just to give you an idea of how much content it has for almost all skills. So I think that's definitely a solid pick for sure. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And-
I think if you he's taking notes, good. If you I think a lot of people have been saying,
Got
and
the
I
notepad
agree,
all ready to go.
and I agree with it. I think if you take Varlamore and you take Corrent, I think they complement each other really well. I think between the two of them, you've got like most of the skills covered already.
And that's why I was sort of thinking, because they're areas that I've got no experience with whatsoever, but having a look into them, I sort of thought, maybe I do go the totally unknown content, because they do seem to be all-rounded content. And so I think you have 99% locked in my second region.
Well, we'll see. We'll see exactly where we land on this, because we have to have a big discussion on Kandarin, amongst other things. But before we get into the actual planning here, I'm going to thank our Patreon supporters for this episode, and that is Alvaro L, Amos Reed, Arvids L, Bladecom, Chilbura, Dominic R, Duramax, Forceful Turd, Gila Fleur, Imperialis, Jade Gizmo, Jason S, Jesse W, Julia W, Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Matt Mad, Mighty Myth, Michelle M, Mike Wings, Mongrath, Pernacius, Ricky A, Robbie D, Samuel FL, Sanguine RX, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Sioasis, Smavin, Snail Mage, Tabby, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Ukulele Steve, Woody, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you, everybody. And if you want to learn more about what this is, or more about what our Patreon offerings are, head on over to patreon.com/RSBANDB. There we have 3 tiers of support available, starting for just $1 a month. And for that price, you'll get access to our monthly bits. That's what we call the bonus shows. We have 93 plus of them now. We just published the most recent one. It talks about completionism in RuneScape, how that all emerged, whether or not that's a good thing, and what it's done to the game, for better or worse. And you get all of those. You get the entire catalog for $1 a month. You get 93 episodes of extra content, and you get voting rights for the next monthly bit when that goes up. Poll should be going up in about the next week or so. And of course, you also help keep the lights on. We then have our community tier for $3 a month, where you get a special Discord community rank and chat channel access, plus a monthly shout out at the top of the month and high quality stereo versions of the show. Also, from time to time, we'll ask you for ideas on monthly bits, ask you about what we should talk about on the show, and also, of course, access to the RSBNB community nights. Then we have our insider tier, where for $5 a month, you get a weekly shout out on the show and access to our expanded clip archive and outtakes with that. And plus, you also do have the option of receiving the RSBNB update Christmas card at the end of the year. So with that being said, a big, huge thank you to all of our Patreon members. And if you're interested in some extra content, or you just want to support your favorite podcast, $1 a month, patreon.com/RSBNB. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
All righty. Well, let's just dive in to the planning. We'll go in the same order that we went for that previous section. So our general plan, what we're going to do is we're going to split this into a top-level discussion here about our regions and our combat style. Then after that, we'll go into relics. But first, we'll do regions and combat style, run through that, and then come back to the top for relics on that. And just because
and we'll talk about pacts at the end, I'm guessing, because once we start talking about pacts, oh my god.
Once you start talking about pacts, you don't go back.
No.
All right. So you unlock Karamja a little while after you start in this league. You unlocked it with the tutorial in previous leagues, but you unlock it a little while after you start in this league, to the point where the first region is effectively Karamja after a set number of points. We don't know that point number up to exactly where that's going to be, but
I think
I believe it's tasks, number of tasks.
Yes, number of
right.
tasks. And it's quite high. So you actually unlock Karamja where you would first unlock like your first region pick, and then everything is sort of shifted a little bit back. So actually, compared to previous leagues, you'll find that it takes much longer to unlock new regions because they wanted you to stick in existing regions, and especially Varnamore a bit longer than before. Because like for context, Mistalin, which is the traditional starter region, is completely unavailable this time around, because people had gotten the starting route for Mistalin so down to a T, right? Like to the point where it's like a step-by-step checklist to get to like your first region pick within like as fast of a time as possible, that they kind of wanted to move away from that, right? And avoid that kind of early rush.
And I think that's fair. Especially with Varlamore. And I mean, as we talked about, Varlamore is just so chock full of content that, you might as well spend some time there for that.
I also love the fact that like region picks are number of tasks, whereas relic picks are number of points, because it creates an interesting balance, right? Mm-hmm. You can often do a whole bunch of like very easy tasks that are only worth 10 points. That will give you a number of tasks, right? But if you do like higher value tasks that give you more points, that tend to be a little bit slower, though they give more points per minute if you want to, but they don't get you closer to a region. So you want to be a little bit smart about, do I pick like small tasks for the regions or do I pick large tasks for the relics? I love that kind of like trade-off.
You also gave me this website to plan the areas, which I'm so glad you did, because I realized we had the relic one, we had the Pacts one, and if you mouse over anything Mistalin on this, it's burning in flames.
Yeah, Yama did not like Mistalin.
So
I was thinking the Dragonkin must have attacked.
Without further ado, my first region pick is going to be Kandarin. And the reason for this is that
it's because you love doing Barbarian Assault.
No, Barbarian Assault is one of the pieces of content that I will absolutely abstain from in this league, unless it's like one or two runs that's going to influence a task set or something to that effect. But the reason I'm choosing Kandarin is that it is a good secondary skilling region. First off, it has a lot of easy points in it to do on the skilling side early league. That's reason number one. Reason number two is that it synergizes very nicely this time around with Magic in terms of the Echo boss and the Echo item that comes from it. There's just so much to talk about when it comes to the Echo Thermonuclear Smoke Devil, or Echo Therby as people call him, and the staff that he drops and the offhand that he drops there. And then on top of that, when it comes to just supplementing late game skilling as well, in terms of things like, I don't know, like farming perhaps, maybe, Kandarin is also good for that as well. So as a result of that, Kandarin will be my first region that I am going to be picking. Does anybody have any questions here on this in particular about why I went with that?
No, but I do think it is interesting to know. So Kandarin was the meme region last leagues. Almost nobody picked it. It was the lowest percentage of all of them. Yeah, you did.
As did I.
As did you. And I think it was being slept on. I think it wasn't as bad as people said.
It wasn't.
But like in terms of like combat utility, it doesn't have a raid. The echo items were not, amazing. So people sort of didn't pick it. And now we're seeing a lot of people Kandarin this time around because the new echo items are better and very exciting.
Yeah.
I also think Kandarin makes up for a lot of the lack of Mistalin, right? Like it has a lot of low level skilling that
exactly
you won't have access to otherwise.
Yeah. The second region I'm going for is the Wilderness. Shock.
What?
Yeah. One thing that people need to know is that if you die to PvP in this league, it counts as a regular PvM death. You don't lose your items, which is different than in the main game. So what the Wilderness brings is it brings a few things on the skilling side kind of towards the high level, but it also brings a lot of combat content and a lot of money-making opportunities. And this is just one thing that it also brings. It brings the best in slot magic cape, which I don't necessarily know if you need, but you can have it as part of taking the Wilderness. It's also a non-raid region. If you look at the demonic pact points as well, they're fairly straightforward. And the way I see the Wilderness is that it is a region to get points and tasks done after you have the first set of combat unlocks. Whereas you don't want to necessarily get bogged down in a late game PvM grind at region number 2.
Wilderness content is also very mid-level, right? Like it's very aimed at like medium game play. Like the bosses are really straightforward. Like you can just boop them, especially in leagues. Which means that in terms of points, there will probably be some grindy tasks that you need to grind quite a long time, but it's probably, if you want to maximize the number of leagues points, it's one of the better regions because the number of roadblocks are not that high, right? It's really all pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I think
like the biggest gate will probably be time.
Yeah.
And a dragon pickaxe off the King Black Dragon there too.
Yeah, that's an option too, but I don't necessarily know if that's, one of the main reasons that I would take it for sure. But it is a consideration there. And then the last region is just so difficult to pick. I'm between actually 4 at this point here.
There's only 5 left, but we're between 4.
No, I have...
Oh, that's 6.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. So my choices for the last region can be Mauritania, the desert, Corund, or Taranwin. I pick Mauritania if I want demonic pact points that I can get done relatively simply. I pick the desert if I want to go in on the Tombs of Amascut raid and have a late game smithing solve. The downside, of course, as I mentioned about desert, is there's content there that I am not the fondest of. Mage Training Arena, the thieving content, Temperos, Pyramid Plunder, and other thieving content in the desert. I pick Corund if I want a more broader path of points in terms of skilling and such. That also brings the Chambers of Xeric raid, and with that, it also has an immaculate solve for firemaking and the Winter Dot skilling boss, amongst other things. It is just, like Varlamore, a good general all-purpose region. This would probably be the one I'd pick if I was just short on actual, if I just wanted to do actual league skilling content at that point in time. And then the wildcard pick out of all of these is Taranwin. I can take this if I decide I don't want to do any raids, and I just want to do all the skilling and combat content that's there, minus the Gauntlet and Corrupted Gauntlet, because I, in the past, have managed to kill Zulrah effectively, and then all the other content in Tronwyn I can pretty much do. And this would also bring a smithing and crafting solve at the end of the game in terms of thieving from elves. Effectively, if you bring the larceny relic power, you get immaculate smithing and crafting and thieving experience there. And I think, Sirion, you can attest to this from Leagues 4. How fast was it to get smithing and crafting to 200 mil?
Very, 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 like, ridiculously fast. So the training method here is, because you can automatically pickpocket, which is not standard in old school, and you got like 10 times the loot or something like that. You just click an elf, right, and you pickpocket enchanted crystal seeds, which you can then break down into ridiculous number of dust, and then you turn that into crystal bows, essentially. And then you break down the crystal bow and you turn it into crystal bow, and you break it down, and like, I think within like an hour I was 99 in both smithing and crafting, and I think I didn't go for 200 mil, but that's,
and that is dependent on the larcenist relic power.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is correct.
Just a quick question. You've mentioned raids a couple of times. So for someone who has come from RS3 and hasn't done any of that, are they doable solo?
They are, yes.
Tombs is?
Yeah,
all of them are, but Chambers of Xeric probably the hardest to solo.
Yeah.
Which is the one in current.
Okay.
Yeah, so kind of the way it's laid out is desert. There's 4 bosses and then a final boss, and there's like a skilling puzzle room before each one, but there's also modifiers that you can put on the raid to make it a little bit harder, but it gives you a better chance at loot. So it's very sort of customizable. So you can just run it with no modifiers. It'll be a fairly easy thing, but your loot is going to be far lower chance. So it's a lot more beginner friendly. That being said, the next one in Mortania, the Theater of Blood, there's no puzzle rooms. You just go into each boss. It's just, you kill one, you go to the next one. It's just mechanic heavy type stuff. Not necessarily hard. I would consider it middle tier. And then you have Chambers of Xeric, which it's kind of like Tombs of Amasket in terms of you have like puzzle rooms, you have bosses, but you can't modify it for a better chance at loot.
It's the most complicated one, as I've been told, but it's also massable with more than a handful of people as well, if you want.
Yes.
But obviously on this, you're not going to be able to mass it.
Yeah, I think the order in which Dave described them here is the, like, from most learner friendly to least learner friendly. But I think, like, Chambers of Xeric, if you find like a mass world or like a group of people, you can more easily tag along. And I think it is probably also the most brute forceable of all of the raids.
Yeah,
it's a tough one.
And so with Theater of Blood, you go through. There's regular, there's hard mode. You kill the bosses, you have a chance at loot type thing. Chambers of Xeric is, as you progress through and you sort of get points for killing things and solving puzzles. If you die, you lose points, and that's sort of your loot modifier. So you finish it and you get 27,000 points. If you die 3 times, you may have 5,000 points. So you have 5,000 points is a lot lower roll for loot than you would if you were no death. You were just like, not one-shotting every boss, but just going through, completing the puzzles, not failing anything. And then with Tombs of Amasket and the Desert, depending on what modifiers and how you add difficulty to it. If you've ever played Halo, it's basically the same as adding skulls to the campaign mode, right? You're adding difficulty modifiers to it. This sort of thing explodes all the time, or these rocks will be in your way and stuff like that. The higher you go, the bigger you'll get loot. So,
okay.
And I just want to add,
finish on the raids. Yeah, so one of the things with raids is so the three best in slot items, one for each combat style, drops from one of the raids. So Chambers of Xeric and Corrin drops the Twisted Bow, which is the best in slot range weapon. The Fiat of Blood in Mauritania drops the Scythe of Fatur, which is the best in slot melee weapon. And Tombs of a Massacre drops Tunic and Shadow, which is the best in slot magic weapon. Because what they noticed in previous raids is like people would be forced into picking the region with the raid for the combat style they were going to. They changed it so that if you normally would roll this best in slot weapon as a drop from any of these raids, what you get instead is a mega rare voucher, which you can then trade at an NPC for any of the free weapons. So essentially what that means is if you want the best in slot item for your combat style, you only need one rage region. So when you pick regions and you want to go for a mega rare, which is one of the things I want to do, pick a raid that you actually want to do and grind is what I would say.
So like Shane, if he's going Mauritania, can do that Theatre of Blood, but choose the
magic from the desert. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That being said, things like the armor drops, right, and all the other drops, they're still the same. So the drops from Theatre of Blood are very melee heavy. Desert drops the magic staff, but drops the ranged armor and a melee sword. So it's like a mix. And the same with like Chambers, which drops like the best in slot magic gear, but also a bow and a crossbow and a two-handed shield. It's weird.
Yeah, and that gets into the region picks as well, is that when I look at what I'm doing with magic, I am going magic in this league. If I look at the weapons and goods that come out of Mauritania, that really pushes Mauritania down on the list aside from those pact points. So leaning into magic, I would be best to consider probably Desert or Corrin in that case when it comes to either, just doing a raid that's easier to get into or getting the magic armor from Chambers. So that's all going to factor in, and it's going to be all based on how I'm feeling as we get to that point of unlocking that third region. But that's enough of me on regions. Dave, what are we doing?
Well, not to say you stole a lot of my thunder, but I'm almost here, and I'm pretty close. So I won't kind of rehash too much, but my first region will be Kandarin. I've been a Kandarin picker for the past 3 leagues, so you can make fun of me all you want. But I did get Dragon on the past 2. But my main reason, again, is the same. It'll be a nice kind of snowball region for points and tasks just to kind of get through. There's a lot of low to mid-level skilling stuff that I'm typically prone to and what I gravitate to. So just kind of an easy pick. I am going an early mage building out into crossbow. So we'll get into that later, but this sort of helps me synergize to kind of get up and rolling early. So kind of just a support region pick, really, in that sense. Second, I think I'm going to pick Desert. And the reason is, obviously, it's a raid region. TOA, or Tombs of a Massacre, is my favorite raid. I've played around with it in Leagues 4. I did take Desert. Really enjoyed the region. A lot of the stuff that you said you did not like, Shane, I don't typically mind, and it ends up a lot of that is some skill solves as well, right? So with what my relics are, I'm going to be doing Pyramid Plunder anyway for the tasks, so that's just going to go towards part of my thieving method. Is it best in slot? No, but it's what I have to work with, and I'm familiar with it, right? That being said, since I'm going into a later crossbow build, the Missouri from TOA is a good kind of pick for me as well, since I'll already sort of be built into mage. Granted, I could get a voucher, but just getting a shadow would be nice. We'll see if I get there. But yeah, so a lot of different solves there. Temporos isn't bad. Mage Training Arena could be better, but it is what it is. A lot of points behind that. So that's my second region. And then finally, I think I am going to land in the Wilderness as well. So with Wilderness, well, let me backtrack. Since my main goal is Dragon Trophy, Wilderness is a fairly easy zone, right? If you realize and know that the PvP is not as scary as you think because there's really no incentive to do it unless you're just griefing on, week 7 and you just want to kill people, right? Originally, I had these flipped around. I was going to go wilderness first, then Kandarin, and then desert. And then I sort of rethought that, like we had spoke about earlier, is if you take wilderness early on, you're probably mid level. And with the amount of task, which is, going, and we're strictly going off of Leagues 5 or Raging Echoes tasks because there's really no change between 4 and 5. Now that's a huge assumption to think of, but you're going to have tasks like 150 to 300 kill count on Vedion, on all those kind of main bosses. Not saying you can't do them at 60, 70-ish combat, but it's going to be a lot easier later down the line. My main reason for switching this, not having Wilderness first, there's a lot of stuff locked behind revenants killing in the wilderness, and the drop rates are absolutely abhorrent unless you're on a Slayer task. Okay, and I'll take this time to sort of explain how Slayer works in the leagues with the region locking. So basically, how it works is every Slayer master can assign a task in a pool of Slayer assignments that is localized to the regions you have picked. Okay, so with that being said, we have Karamja, okay, and say you pick Kandarin first, you can go to Duradel and he will assign you, there's no like combat requirements and stuff. You can go to any Slayer Master and he will assign you any monster you can kill in Varlamore, Karamja, and Kandarin. Now, if you were to pick Wilderness as your first zone and you get a Slayer task, you would be able to get Varlamore, Karamja, and Wilderness. And my original thought was, I want to basically have the pool of monsters as small as I can to increase the weighting for revenants. Okay. And then I started thinking, I'm going to get stun locked in the wilderness, especially if we're having to do more tasks to unlock more regions. So I was like, probably not the best idea, and we'll speak of this later when we talk about relics, but I have a solve for this later on trying to force rev tasks. So that's kind of how I got to where I am now, swapped them around. But yeah, going Kandarin, Desert, and then Wilderness, and I think it will synergize out because Kandarin and Desert really sort of gets behind that early mage build I want to start building, and then once I get to Wilderness, I'll build that crossbow build, and then I will have finished out sort of my tree, so to speak. So that's kind of where I landed.
I think it's sensible. It makes sense. You raise an interesting point about moving wilderness around there. I might consider that, but I don't necessarily know if that's something that will be a consideration for me on that. So,
yeah, because just going by past tasks for the wilderness, there's not much skilling. It's all just go and kill this boss X amount of times. And again, if you're only like base 70 combats, that's going to be a bit of a slog. And then you don't want to spend a week trying to just get through the wilderness to unlock the desert. As we're desert, you can sit there at Temperos, get that done in a day. You can do Mage Training Arena in a couple days and just knock that out and move forward. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
All right. Good. If there's no further clarifications, let's hear from Sirion.
Oh God, yes. This has been the hardest time ever picking regions for me. Before even any reveals, I kind of already knew I wanted to get a mega rare, right? Like it just sounds fun to have that. So I knew that I was going to need a raids region, and of all of the 3 raids, Tombs of a Mascot is also my favorite. I think it's the best designed. I think it's the most fun. And I was like, if I need to spend like a week just grinding this out, then, if I have to pick any region, it's going to be, desert. It's not going to be my first pick, but I'll get back to it later.
Oh, okay. I was getting antsy there to push that.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, so what mega rare do I pick, right? Because I can pick any of the styles. And then I realized I get Masori. And the Echo Boss in the desert drops a Drygor Blowpipe, which is a blowpipe that rolls accuracy twice, so it's a really great weapon. So, you know what? Ranged it was. So before we knew anything about any of the combat, I was like, I want to build like a bow around, or build like a build around bows, right? Like just make my bow super strong and then just twisted bow all of the bosses into oblivion. And then on top of that, I was like, you know what? If I take a ranged build anyway, let's go with the Fremenic region. Let's get myself a Vanity Bow. Because a Vanity Bow, basically, you hit something and then like chain shot in RS3, it hits more people. And I was like, that's going to be so much fun for Slayer, right? Like, have this overpowered bow and just rip through enemies in multi-combat zones. All of this went completely out of the window the moment the demonic pacts came out. Because, because the bow pacts are just not that interesting. They're reasonably powerful, but they are just not that interesting. And looking at the throne part of the range tree, it's okay, but also not that interesting. The real powerhouse is crossbows, if you look at the range trees. And if there was one thing I was trying to avoid, it was crossbows. But here we are. So where are we at? I think I still want to stick with ranged. I think I still want to stick with my overall plan. I know a lot of people are going sort of the mage nuke build, and I think it's really fun, but I'm always the kind of person like I want to sort of carve my own path and do my own thing. So I wanted to go desert, and then for me, because I kind of have to go crossbows, it was between two regions. I can either go wilderness and get the King's Barrage, or I can go to Asgarnia and commit to the God Wars dungeon. This was a hard choice, but I did end up going with Asgarnia. Again, this is not going to be my first choice. Oh, okay. Don't jump the gun.
We're working backwards.
I'm working quite backwards, yes. But also, and we'll talk about this a little bit earlier, I think there is some really fun things you can do with what we call light weapons.
Oh, yeah.
And the drop from Cerberus, the Echo Cerberus, is a light weapon that I think is a lot of fun to play around.
Are we calling that the Dogger yet?
The Dogger.
We call it the Dogger because that's a better name than Fang of the Hound. Yeah. But yes, we call it the Dogger because last year we had the Dog Sword and now we have the Dogger. My first pick, my first region, I'm just going to drop it on you, is Mauritania. So why Mauritania? Mauritania gives me flexibility. The reason I picked Mauritania is it gives me the Noxus Halberd, which is one of the paths I could go down in the melee region. Melee tree that gives me a good sustain build that sort of auto heals over time. It also has some of the easier pact points to get in terms of PVM. Yeah. It doesn't really have PVM that I think I won't be able to do. Fasani's Nightmare is going to be rough, but I think I can probably learn it when I am powerful enough. So it doesn't really have any content I'm locked out of. So that's why I'm picking Mauritania. Why do I pick Mauritania first? Well, one of the reasons is I'm going to basically spec my combat tree in a way that doesn't really align with where I want to end up. And then I'm going to use one of the respecs to get to the point where I do actually want to get. And one of the things I need to do in Mauritania is kill the Barrows brothers, which I kind of want to do with air magic. So I'm hoping I have a few spare pack points to just chuck that down the magic tree, get the Barrows grind done. I'll also have like a melee build to get the moon grinds done, and then I have that out of the way, and then I can gear into what I actually want. So that's why I'm doing Mauritania first. Another thing is there's His Faithful Servants is a quest you can do in Mauritania. If you pick Desert, which is my second pick, it gets auto-completed. But if you do Mauritania and you do the quest, it's a really, really big prayer XP drop. So this is going to be my early prayer solve.
And I think that's an important thing to mention as well, is that there are regions that will autocomplete quests, but there are also, like you said, when you look at His Faithful Servants, that is autocompleted by picking the desert. So if you take Mauritania first, you can go into Mauritania, do that quest, get the prayer XP before picking desert and having it auto-completed for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm picking Desert next because I think at this level I'll be ready to start doing Echo bosses. Then I can start getting the Drygor Blowpipe from the Echo Calphite Queen, which I think will be a good unlock. Because that together with Moonscare, I think will be enough to start getting raids done. And then Asgarnia is sort of my third and final build. It means I have to delay getting the Dogger. But like we said before, I think it's a very heavy PVM region. But yeah. Part of the reasons I picked these regions as well, like I've picked Desert before, but Asgarnia and Mauritania are completely new regions for me in leagues, and this hopefully keeps things a little bit fresh.
That's good. That's good. And I think there's just so much good PVM stuff as well that comes out of Asgarnia that you're going to be happy with that.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not looking forward to the God Wars dungeon grinds, but we'll see. We'll see. It really, we don't know the task list yet, and I feel once the task lists are released, that will potentially still influence the regions I pick.
Alrighty then. I think it's sensible. There's lots of I think my biggest concern for you in this case would be like, how does this look? And we'll probably get there when we talk about your relic picks about, are there any major skilling holes with these regions?
You'd be surprised, but not really.
Okay. We'll get to that. Alrighty, what are we thinking for you, Pern?
Okay, well, obviously, as I said before, I mean, Varlamore and Karend, two areas, and Taranwin, well, basically 3 areas I have not experienced in OS. So it's going to be really interesting. I was sort of thinking, yeah, okay, I start off at Varlamore, then I go to the areas I know and go through that way. Wilderness, I never even contemplated because to me, Wilderness, OSRS, PvP, I don't want to get involved in. What you have just told me there has sort of, it's all of a sudden I can start looking at it, and I haven't looked at it before. And, you guys have made some very good points about it. My first choice, though, will be Karend. Just because, as we've discussed previously, Varlamore and Karend do complement each other. I am primarily going to be skilling. Towards the end, I'll do some bossing and such, but primarily I want to just build up those, get all my skilling up. So I think looking at what Karend has with Varlamore works out really well for what I want.
So many great things there, like the Woodcutting Guild, the Farming Guild, Wintertod.
Exactly,
Wintertod.
And I haven't tried any of those things, so it's going to be interesting to see. Go in there, try it all out, work out things and such there. Next was going to be Asgarnia.
Emphasis on was.
Oh, no, sorry, still is.
Okay.
Is going to be I've still got it down as Asgarnia. For the simple fact, but again, it could, seeing what points are, and Dave was making some good points, and yourself about the Wilderness. So, it could change, but I'm still leaning that way simply because of God Wars. Nice weapons that I understand, the bosses I understand, and when I do some bossing and things.
You also do have some skilling entries in there as well.
Exactly right.
Not as many as you'd think, but you do have some.
But yeah, it gives me some choices there. Again, Desert, I've never really been a big fan of the Desert. But again, I'm coming from RS3 and such, and until they did all the extensions there, it wasn't a great area. But again, it sounds like on OS, with what has been developed in that area, does sound interesting.
The desert does have a phenomenal smithing solve.
Mauritania was one that I was looking at again because I was hearing a lot of easy points there, nice easy weapons and such to get. But and I love doing all the
it's the
vampire
barrows,
quests.
right?
But if I Yeah, the Barrows, because I love Barrows. Um, but again, if I am going to be going to Asgarnia for God Wars, do I need Barrows? The other one, as I said, was Taranwin. That just looks like such a good area to me as well. That I have not experienced. Uh, I'm just having a look at what I can get, and it just seems a good place for skilling.
Especially, like we said, if you take Larcenist on there.
Which is one of the
Yeah.
ones that I was actually looking at. So
I think
I will-
Taranwin, I picked it in Leagues 4, which was the first leagues I did. And it was sort of a last minute pivot, but it was really looking like it felt like it was going to be a very PVM heavy and difficult region. But there is not actually that much PVM in the Taranwin region, and that means there's a lot of the scaling points. And just to be clear, like Dave talked a little bit about it earlier as well when we talked about the wilderness, they are reshuffling some of the points, so I expect the task list to be a little bit different than before. Because previously different regions had different point caps, essentially because a different number of tasks, which caused the people that wanted to be on the high score to all pick the same regions. They made it so that every region has exactly the same number of points available in total. That still means that some regions might have easier points than other regions, but
yeah.
So yeah, I do think Taranwin is a fun region. You need to be reasonably high level to make use of the content there, but
which is why it will be my last one. Yeah.
So
it's
is
a
your
thieving
last
solve. It's a smithing and crafting solve. It's an agility solve, even if you want to just do the agility course there, which is pretty decent.
And the closest thing to dungeoneering, you have the gauntlet. So
yeah,
well,
which
they've also got Zulrah, which I've heard a
Mhm.
lot about, and it's a boss that I'd be interested in trying. So
yeah,
I think that is going to be my area 3.
That's not a
Okay.
bad
So at
choice.
this
That's not a bad selection. You know, I made it through the first league and the second league, I think, or no, just the first league with Asgarnia. So, and I, like I said, I chose that in Leagues 4, my first league, really still new to old school. I chose this as my first region, so choosing it as second is not nearly a bad thing. So, all right. That's our general regions and combat styles, and I guess with that, then we can pivot over to our relic picks, which is, again, like we talked about in the reveals, something that everybody was always looking at, you know, to see exactly what are the new relics each and every day. What are we gonna be picking here for this? So we'll go in the same order here this time as we did for the regions. I just gotta pull up my list here so I make sure I'm going off of a proper memory and not just winging it. Okie dokie. So
do we go tier by tier, or do you want to go?
Let's go tier by tier. Let's go tier by tier. I'll open up a few of these cards here for everybody. Okay. So, is this gonna persist across the entire? No, it's not. Okay, we're good. We're good.
But if you reload, it does, I believe. So,
okay. Well, I'll just start talking. At tier 1, we have Endless Harvest, Barbarian Gathering, and Abundance. And I think I broke these down into what is a fairly ordinary discussion of where they each land. I see Endless Harvest as the option you pick if you want an AFK experience. Barbarian Gathering is the lean forward skilling gathering method with a little bit of double dipping into agility and strength on the side. And Abundance is what you pick if you want some GP and you just want to be catapulted through some early game levels, because Abundance boosts your levels by 10. So that's effectively the way that I chose to look at these relics here as we head into the general discussion with this. So my initial pick, and the way I'm leaning right now, is Barbarian Gathering for my first relic pick. And the reason for this is that I just didn't want to have to worry about sourcing tools. That's really what it came down to. That's really what it came down to with this. And, you know, when I looked at this, I thought, you know, maybe Endless Harvest is an option. I could still be persuaded to that throughout this episode and in the few days until the league begins. But right now I'm leading towards Barbarian Gathering for mine. So, and the reason for that is that I think that this will also just provide a passive agility solve until I'm able to get higher up into potentially going for a different agility solve later on in the league. Whereas if I did not take Barbarian Gathering, I'd be running laps somewhere, which I don't necessarily know if I want to do.
Fair point.
So I think I'm leaning towards Barbarian Gathering. Where are you at, Dave?
I think I am going Endless Harvest, actually. Abundance, I feel like, and I may make some connections to previous relics for those of you that are not aware. Abundance feels kind of like an equilibrium-ish type solve mixed with a little bit of Golden God. But Endless Harvest, I think, is going to be the best for me. Barbarian Gathering, to me, that really only gives the really only thing that it kind of has an edge up on is the agility, right? With that, I will be having another agility solve with that. I will also be needing to run my Monkey Laps and Kandarin, so I don't necessarily need a lot.
That's fair.
Right, I'm not going to need as much. I mean, even like 10%, it's not anything to kind of turn your nose up at, but it doesn't basically it doesn't make me want to not pick Endless Harvest. My reasoning behind Endless Harvest is, so you only have so many, I don't know, hours to play each day. But with Endless Harvest, to me, this is an AFK method. So when I can't, lean forward or be like logged in staring at my screen, I can have it up on mobile. I can still be working towards the 99 gathering skills, which with my other relics I'm picking will synergize with the processing skills. So you can still be going, and even after you get 99, you can still be working on the 25, 35, 50 mil tasks.
And the thing I want to say about Endless Harvest at this point, the endless nature of it is that you click once on a tree or a log or a rock, and you will keep gathering from that even if it depletes, and the product goes straight to the bank.
And you do it for the duration of the logout timer, which is like 25 minutes or something. So, I mean, that's pretty big.
My question to you with Endless is, where do you source early on? Because you're going to get to Rune Tier very early. Where do you source those tools?
There are... and it's a good point, but I feel like just with shops and with stuff like that, I have not dug that deep into it, but I don't think at any point...
if you choose Corin first, you get the rune hatchet in the store, and I know we can buy a pickaxe in Varlamore, so that's not a problem.
Right. Yeah, and I will probably cross that bridge. It's something that I'm going to definitely think about now, but that's another thing is... even if I'm stuck with a steel or myth hatchet for, a significant amount of time, just being able to sit there and get those resources as if, I don't know, it's something I haven't thought of, but it's definitely the ability to be able to basically passively work on a significant chunk of points, which is to me, the 50 mil in skills, because that's...
Right.
800 points, right? You have 99, 25, 35, 50, assuming that those tasks still carry over from 4 and 5. But that's 800 points there that can basically be
for 3
AFK'd.
gathering skills.
For 3 gathering skills. And then with the other relics I will be picking, it should be pretty close to the processing skills with fire making, fletching, cooking, and smithing as well. So... Okay. Definitely a lot of kind of, again, if I'm not sitting lean forward PVMing, I can at least have mobile up or tablet to where I'm just woodcutting for 4 hours.
I'm being slowly convinced to go Endless Harvest. Sirion, where are you at?
So I will say, I think abundance is being slept on. I think abundance is a great early points booster, right? Like it basically essentially means that you have a permanent 10 level boost to all of your skills, especially up to the mid game of leagues. Like when we're talking about sort of the relics in the middle, you will be getting your skills up to hit certain skill milestones to be able to just do an action, right? Cut a redwood tree, for example, in Current, right, which requires like level 90 wood cutting, or
Which
like
you can
fletch
do
a
at
certain
80.
thing, or like craft a thing. All of these, you take 10 levels of doing that. You can do all of these points earlier. Now, of course, at some point, the benefit of that's going to run out. Like you're going to get your points earlier, you're going to get your other relics and your regions earlier, but it does sort of taper off. But I think if you can get to tier 7 flow state very, very quickly, you sort of create like a really nice combination, right? Where you have like this initial burst of points that you get much faster, and then you get to flow state, and then you just make all of your scaling faster, right? And you don't really need endless harvesting and barbarian gathering anymore. That being said, I'm not picking abundance. I just feel it needs to be said, right?
Yeah, because nobody here has talked about it yet, so fair enough.
Exactly. Look, I am honestly, probably this is going to be a decision I make day off. I will go with what I'm leaning towards right now, which is barbarian gathering. The reason I'm picking Barbarian Gathering over Endless Harvest is my philosophy is a little bit like, I want to be playing leagues, right? Period. I want to just be doing it. I don't want it to just sit on my screen all day. That being said, I have a job. I work from home. I could just put my tablet on and just get all of the gathering skills done, and then I can actually spend the time I do play on the the endless PVM tasks in Asgardia, right? And especially with like some of the latest stuff, and I even saw somebody, right, like flow state. Again, sorry, I'm talking about tier 7 here, but flow state makes every skilling action 2 ticks. Combining that with endless harvest, oh my god, right? Like it makes things so nice. If you look at XP rates purely, Barbarian Gathering wins out at most things, with the exception of fishing, in terms of like how fast it is XP per hour. But does that make up the difference for not being able to AFK it? Barbarian Gathering, you can still AFK for quite some time. You have a knapsack, you can carry
Does that even
140
include
things.
the double you get from Endless?
No, it doesn't.
Because you get XP.
It does.
That.
Yes,
okay.
It does. It does.
Okay.
It does. Yeah. It does.
Interesting.
So Barbarian Gathering is really good. And the thing with Barbarian Gathering, the thing that makes it so good is the 50% chance to succeed. Because all of a sudden, you're not sitting there for like a minute mining a single runite ore. You're not sitting there for a minute mining a single amethyst crystal. Right, and these are the kind of training, like amethyst crystals is like the thing I have available to me in Asgardia. Model load mine is the thing I have available to me in Asgardia. And these things are going to go very hard,
right,
with Barbarian Gathering, with that 50%.
And we forget how long it takes and what the success rate is on those high-level gatherings, even with the best tools that you can have.
So, Can
I ask one thing? Sorry, can I just ask one thing there? What about competition? Like, I mean, obviously, when you said rune rocks, if there's 20 people trying to get it and it takes like 20 minutes to, respawn, how effective is that going to be?
Look, that's a good point. Resources do regenerate much faster in League's worlds than in normal worlds, but runite rocks, that might still be a problem. Amethyst crystals might still be a problem. And that is something Endless Harvest sort of avoids, but yeah. So just looking at, the wiki did some XP rate calculations. Amethyst mining, right? Base rate. So I believe this is before any Leagues modifiers. Amethyst mining at level 92 mining gets you 270 XP per hour.
270k.
Now multiply this by 16. Let me see. I have a calculator
Wow.
right here, right? Yeah.
That's a bit close. That'll be about 3.5
So we
mil.
are talking
3.2 million. No.
4.3 million
Oh,
XP per
yeah.
hour for mining. So within like a few hours, you have mining knocked out. That being said, endless harvest, you just click once and you just sit there and I don't know. I honestly don't know.
And there's not a wrong choice here unless you choose abundance and then, decide that you're not in that game of rushing things early for that. So, all right. Pern, what are we thinking?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I first looked, I thought abundance was really good because, as I said, my experience of trying to make GP when I just started was really hard. So saying it's an 8-week thing, there are going to be other ways to make money going forward. I was tossing up between Endless Harvest and Barbarian Gathering. Endless Harvest, just because with me, I mean, AFKing is just so easy because, as everyone knows, I don't work. I got the bad back. I can click it, do my housework, do what I need to do, sit down, do a little bit, and I can just keep walking away from the screen. And the competition for wood cutting and especially especially rocks. I just hate that. I am so used to the RS3 where we can all just do it and get what we want. So that competition for mining really killed me when I first come across. But Barbarian Gathering with the agility, I mean, you got a bag of 140. I mean, you're only going to be running the bank every 15, 20 minutes anyway. Not having to carry tools, which I always forget. Your hands are the equivalent of a crystal version of the respective tools, so you're not going to have to worry about trying to source those, those tools and such. So I am still up in the air, but Barbarian Gathering. It is. Barbarian Gathering is probably the way I am going to go. It's 60-40 at this stage between that and Endless Harvest. So,
I think similar for me. Yeah, like the early strength, the early agility, like especially with my build, the early strength is going to help with the combat. And I think what I forgot to say as well is like fishing. I can AFK anyway, right? At Karam runs. So I don't need an AFK option for that. For woodcutting, do I need an AFK option? Maybe. But at the same time, I want to be doing forestry events. And for that, I need to be at the screen.
Because there are league tasks for those.
And your point of wanting to play is a very important thing. I mean, if I was doing this and it's a year-long thing, Endless Harvest, no worries at all. But it's 8 weeks. I want to get involved. I want to learn things. I want to be watching what's going on. So I think that's another reason I sort of went Barbarian. And the only thing I have issue with is the mining. But see, I might just work on getting fishing and woodcutting done first, and then go back to mining when sort of people have moved on and there's not going to be as much competition.
If also you're choosing Taranwin as one of your regions, you do also have some, what in my experience in Leagues 4 were some fairly exclusive to you mining locations.
Oh, good.
And
there's a really good mine there, and you can also do Volcano for mining XP if you want.
That was the other one. Yes, the Volcano. I saw that which was in the Terran, which was one of the reasons I sort of thought, I
think I talked myself into Barbarian Gathering again because I'm like, like Endless Harvest lets me AFK, but I can already AFK fishing. I can already sort of AFK mining at Amethyst Crystals, and I don't really want to AFK woodcutting, so.
All right, I'm gonna.
But I think also that 10% agility early on
helps
not having to run. Yeah.
So that brings us to tier 2, which is important because Tier 2 is something I was initially thinking, oh, Hotfoot, that'll be good, because then, that synergizes nicely from the wood cutting and mining, in that I can have those goods automatically either burnt or converted to ore, or to bars rather. But the more and more I looked at this, is I realized that Hotfoot in itself, while solving agility explicitly and also helping a lot with with fire making and smithing, we start off in Varlamore. And if I take Woodsman, this does two specific things for me, and two specific things that I honed in on very closely. If I go to the overview of the Woodsman Relic, the biggest one here, the two big ones for me, is that your hunter traps don't fail. You also get double loot and double XP from everything hunter, but traps will always drop a random herb seed or tree seed when harvested. So that's my source of seeds solved. That is double XP on hunter from the get-go, in addition to the League's multipliers. And the benefit of this is that there's an entire savanna area of southern Varlamore that is geared towards hunter. And if you look at the hunter tasks that are going to be there, that is a good collection of points that you can use to just push yourself forward to the next set of relics. So I was initially thinking Hotfoot, but I think it's going to be Woodsman here for me in this case, just because of the herbs and the faster hunter XP. That's where I land on this. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think I think that's probably what I've settled on, and I would need to hear a good story to be convinced otherwise. What about you, Dave?
Well, I'm going to say literally the exact explanation you had. I was going Hotfoot first, and with the first, we have a little spoiler of what I'm choosing for Tier 7. But no, I am definitely going Woodsman for that, again, that concept of making sure we get a lot of points early. We could probably have 99 Hunter day one with this, which is a lot of points, a lot of snowballing, getting us to the next zone, especially if it's giving us the farming seeds that we need. Getting that as early as possible is good, since we're in a time limited, 8 weeks. The more seeds we can gather, even if we're not planting them yet, is huge. So if we can get those early on, and get those start growing, we can get into our herblore solves, our farming solves, and whatnot. But Woodsman is definitely the play here for me. So I did swap those around. So that's what I'm going as well.
Yeah, and I'm not averse to traditional farming either. So this is a win-win for me in this case here. Sirion, are you going to continue what you've been doing and tell us about Forager here? Or are you going to go with one of the ones that we have talked about?
Yeah.
I was choosing Forager.
Okay, we'll talk about it when you get there, then.
Okay.
You just made me, when you said that, you're thinking, well, am I making a bad choice?
We'll talk. Okay, if Tyrone wants to talk about Forager, we can talk about Forager, and I will leave my comments until he has done his story.
No, you go, because I want to hear from people with experience. So, yeah.
I want to like Forager so badly. Like, I saw this pick, and I was like, I want to pick this. This is a pick that is straight copied from Leagues 5. I kind of regretted not getting it. It was kind of a fun option. You get like all of these herbs. You don't need secondaries. However, it really solves only one skill, which is herblore. And both of the other two relics solve at least 2 skills. Woodsman solves hunter and fire making.
Fletching.
Sorry?
Fletching, isn't it?
No.
Also fletching. Yes, it solves fire making, fletching, and hunter, which is crazy good. Hotfoot solves agility, smithing, and cooking. So here you have herblore, which arguably it's not the easiest to get a soul for in general, but it's just one skill, and the other both give 3. So I had to sort of drop it, and then I looked at Hotfoot, and then I finally looked at Hotfoot and Woodsman, and Hotfoot made things fall in place for me. why am I not picking Woodsman? Because you both have like this great story about, oh, Woodsman, early points. Yes, I agree. It gives you early points, and then it gives you no benefits for the rest of the league. That's my worry I have with Woodsman. Yes, it makes fletching really fast, but also doing broad bolts is going to be 0 time anyway, so I don't really need a fletching solve. Also, I don't mind doing veil totems in Valamor, so my fletching is solved, right? Fire making, let's be honest, fire making is solved. You can just use the Forester's Fires, and it's basically an AFK option.
It's like RS3 bonfires.
Exactly. So fire making is solved. Fire making was never slow, which leaves the hunter benefit. And I did Valamor in Leagues 5. I did the Hunter Rumors in Leagues 5. And honestly, they didn't feel that bad to begin with. Yes, they will be much faster with Woodsman, but you're going to need to do a number of them anyway for points. I'm pretty sure that's going to be thresholds, either through drops or the number of rumors you finish. And by the time I'm finished with that, I'm probably going to have solved most of Hunter already anyway. Hotfoot, on the other hand, is my early GP solve. By using Barbarian Gathering in combination with Hotfoot, I will get a whole bunch of bars. I don't have to gather any coal to smelt these bars.
That's a very key point. Very key point.
And now I have basically like both GP and smithing completely covered. Agility, I don't really care for it, but it's a really nice fringe benefit. I basically don't have to run labs. I will get Hallowed Sepulchre eventually. So like agility is like triple solve for me in my build, and I hate the inefficiency, but also from what I've learned in the past, even running around with Shades Greaves all the times, it's not going to get you to 50 mil. You're still going to have to do extra agility training if you want to do that. But it is nice to chip away. And with my tier 3 pick, the extra agility levels early on are going to come in handy.
Oh, so we know what you're picking there for that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm picking there. Yeah, that's it.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, Pern, tell us about Forger then.
Okay, well, not what I'm going for now. I mean, I was choosing it because Herblore is such a pain in the ass early levels and such, and the fact that I don't have to get secondary ingredients, many of them, because 90% not to be consumed is it's nothing to sneeze at. That's why I was going for that, and I thought the herbs themselves was going to be solved, because while I'm doing woodcutting, fishing, mining, and such, I'm going to get grimy herbs. I wasn't thinking about farming and where my seeds are going to come for.
But hold on, hang on one moment here. Not to interrupt you. You do have Corin.
But you are interrupting.
I know. You do have Corin,
no.
which has farming contracts in the Farming Guild and the Tithe Farm for seed packs. So you, with Corin, you have a tremendous source of seeds already.
Oh, okay. That's good. See, and this is what I mean, because I don't know anything about these two areas.
Yeah,
so...
basically imagine construction contracts, but for farming.
Oh, nice.
And also, in Valamor, you have Mastering Mixology from level 60 Herblore onwards. Yeah. Which is basically allowed. It's slower, but it's League, so it's still going to be fast enough. But you don't require any secondaries. You can basically turn your herbs directly into experience.
Okay.
That being said, like especially with a good source of farming seeds, some of the secondaries like snape grass and potato cacti are going to be very, very straightforward to get anyway.
Okay, yeah, well, because I was going to go friendly forager for that because, obviously, being able to clean any herbs at, plus 25 levels, I thought that was going to be really good just to sort of power through those and such. But yeah, sort of hearing the things on Hunter with getting the seeds, I'm thinking, well, yeah, because I wasn't sort of thinking about for farming, but as you said, with the packs, so that now leads me towards Hotfoot. which may then change my first one from barbarian gathering to endless harvesting, because it was that early agility. But if I'm going to be running laps for Hotfoot, and that's going to solve my coins,
Yeah.
and when I do get to the Prifdinus, the 10 times crystal shards is going to come in handy as well. Having the fish cooked and the ore smelted. Syrian brought out a great point on not needing coal there. So I am probably going to go Hotfoot now.
Yeah, it's just that you have such a good source of seeds in Corin with the Farming Guild and Tithe Farm.
Yeah, I did not know that. So there you go. And as you said, with that other thing with the herb lore, the potion, I don't care if it's a bit slower, because I do have, as I said, I have the time that a lot of people aren't as advantaged as I am in that way. So yeah, put me down for Hotfoot.
All right.
Take that one off and put Hotfoot on.
All right,
Yeah,
moving
I think Endless Harvest into Hotfoot. Like I said, I think I'm gonna go Barbarian Gathering, but I think Endless Harvest into Hotfoot is its own kind of interesting.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to think about that now as well, because if I can just sit there and do my just camp rune rocks,
and if you set your rune
and
light
they're going straight to
plugin,
bars,
you got like 25 minutes of AFK with Endless Harvest.
What the hell is a rune light plugin? That's that cheating software, isn't it, that solves all your clues and shit? Don't laugh at me. I'm old.
We have to help this guy set up his Runelight client, because I think he's been playing old school in hard mode.
Setting him up for success.
Yeah.
All right.
For those who don't know, Runelight is a community client. Especially, it's officially endorsed by Jagex. It's a community client, and on top of that, we have a plugin system. The very thing that I think RuneScape is getting to their official client by the end of this year. Old School doesn't have an official plugin API, but has one through this client, and the number of plugins that you can get is outright ridiculous. Like, there's solves for everything, but because it is sort of endorsed by Jagex and curated, you don't get outright illegal plugins.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the teleport tier. There's 3 options here. Bank Heist, that will teleport you to any bank or deposit box in the game. Evil Eye, that will teleport you to most bosses in the game. And then Map of Alacrity, which will teleport you to agility shortcuts, the side of the agility shortcut where the shortcut begins. This is a simple choice for me. Everybody is free to choose what they want here. I don't think there's a wrong choice in this tier, but I'm going Evil Eye. Because last time I explained my problems I had in the Fremennik region with the Dagannoth Kegs, and I just want quick access to bosses, specifically all the bosses in the wilderness. So it's Evil Eye for me at tier 3. That's it.
Simple enough.
Yeah. Dave?
So I was going Evil Eye. That was kind of my main thing, taking wilderness, that being very hard to kind of get around. And I kind of got thrown a curveball because there was one thing that was outstanding that I did not necessarily have the best solve for. So I am going Bank Heist, and it's for one reason and one reason only. It is my rune crafting solve. And I'm sure everyone could have guessed that, yes, for ZMI, because I have no quick teleports to the ZMI. Normally, traditional training, you have lunars. I will not have lunars because I will not have Fremennik. So Bank Heist is where that comes in for me. Now, one would ask, well, how are you going to get around in the wilderness? My thing is, I mean, not to sound stupid, but I'm just going to run to where I need to go. But with that being said, it's my 3rd region. I'm going to hopefully be pretty well built out with my combat setup. I don't expect I will need to bank a lot. I will probably just show up there, and then when I get sick of killing a boss, I leave. I don't need to get there. The only other purpose that I would need a teleport for in the wilderness is getting away from a possible PKer. It's highly like de-incentivized in leagues, but at that point, it's not a matter of where you teleport to, it's the fact you teleport. And all these teleport relics ignore wilderness teleport restrictions. So bank heist, I still have a deep wilderness telly. I can go to the major arena bank and I can go to Ferox. So I kind of have the low end and the high end of where I need to go. I can run from there. But again, if somebody's coming up on me and I'm little sketch about it, I can still use bank heist and get out. If I need to run somewhere, like I said, I'm going to be very sustainable for what I'm doing at the point of doing it. Wilderness being my third region, so that's kind of where I landed. I typically not big into picking a relic for a single skill solve, but in this case, that's exactly what it's doing. And again, it's going to help a lot with routing tasks and stuff. Just being able to go to every single bank, just teleport. You're not running kind of early game, so that's kind of where my mind is with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair, especially with the ZMI stuff. If you're not taking any of the runecrafting solves that are existing later on in the relics tier. Okay.
Yep.
Sirion?
So I'm picking the map of Alacrity. Bank heist is plain bad in the regions I have. There's almost no banks in the desert. There's very few banks in Ascania, if you can believe it. There's really only one in Burthorpe, two in Falador, and that's it, right? Like that's the banks you have in Ascania. And Void Knight's outpost, of course, but that's not like a
you can have fun with pest control.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. So I'm picking the map of Alacrity. The Evil Eye is good, but it is only really good at PVM content, and I need solves for other things as well. The map of Alacrity teleports me to any agility shortcuts, and basically any boss I need to go to regularly has agility shortcuts close by, right? I mean, I have them all open, but like a Moxliadel, Doom both have things that are close by, right? Fortress Colosseum, let's be honest, that's not very hard to get to. Tombs of a Mascot has a fairy ring straight outside. And this is another thing with the map of Alacrity. The map of Alacrity teleports you to the start of the stepping stones of both the into the Mort Maya swamp and into the necropolis in the desert, which means that my map of Alacrity puts me right next to a fairy ring. It's a little bit more of a hassle than having fairy mushroom, but I basically have the entire fairy ring network right next to one of my teleports.
And that's a key point too that we didn't mention, is that you do get the fairy quest completed, and you do get fairy
and
ring
the Draman stuff
from the beginning.
Yes, exactly. And also what Dave said, right? Many of the bosses that don't have a straight teleport, I hope that by the time I get there, I can sustain there for a while and I don't have to go there for a while. The hardest and most annoying thing will be getting to Nightmare. That one will suck. Fasadi's Nightmare does drop a teleport tablet to go there, but also realistically, I only need one Fasani Nightmare kill. So that's going to be the longest run. That's going to suck, but the map of Alacrity it is for me.
Alrighty. Pern?
Yeah, I was tossing up between Bank Heist and Map of Alacrity. Bank, just because I know where all the banks are. It's just like, yep, bang, bang, and with the doing skilling, get back there easy. Having infinite run energy, it doesn't really matter running back to places because I'm not, I'm going to get back there quick enough. But so saying, because I do want to try some of those bosses and such later on, and God Wars Dungeons has shortcuts in it. So
yeah, it does.
Yeah, so I didn't actually think of it on that side of things. So I will probably change from Bank Heist and go to Map of Alacrity as well.
Alrighty. Fair enough.
Just funny because when Map of Alacrity was revealed, I was like, that's not very good. Right?
No, I think that one's a sleeper. I really do. It's just
I've just opened up because they've actually got the map and all the teleports it has on there, and it goes to a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the wildy, I mean, there's half a dozen places in the wilderness. Oh, actually, there's more than that in the wilderness.
Okay, maybe I'll look at the maps again later. But I was just operating on past experiences.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Tier 4. This is where this game gets interesting. You have 3 very different, very strong choices. Transmutation, Conniving Clues, and Butler's Bell. Transmutation will take up to 10 of any item up or down in tier. These are raw materials, fish, seeds, ores, logs, compost. I think I'm forgetting a few that are on this list, but it's basically a transmute up and down that operates on the price of a nature rune. But when you equip the tome that it gives you, that acts as an infinite source of nature runes. So what this means, in addition to its transmutation powers, is that it has the ability to effectively continually cast a transmutation on a noded stack of items. So what this has the benefit of doing is that this is almost Golden Godlike from last league in that it acts as a magic solve. On the other hand, Conniving Clues, it's the clue relic that is pretty much in every league. This one allows for clues to be greatly simplified in that the clues from creatures in jars now have a drop rate of 1 in 15. Reward caskets have a chance to contain another clue. Clue vessels obtained from skilling are 10 times more likely to drop. All clues have the lowest possible number of steps to give the maximum amount of reward rolls, and emote, fallow, and Charlie clue steps will no longer have item requirements associated with it. And, I looked at the clue points from Raging Echoes. If the number of clue points are similar in this league to last league, I think personally that this will net me somewhere between 1,600 and 1,800 points if I choose Conniving Clues. But on the other hand, if I take Transmutation, that solves seeds, that solves wood, that solves ore, that solves magic, that solves compost. It just solves so many other things, and it's one of the unique power trips that you can have in this league. So I am going for Transmutation at Tier 4. And hopefully that's the right decision. I know in the RS3 league, I went for the Clue Relic because I thought it'd be a good amount of points, and it was. But by the time I completed most of the clues that I was nearing cap at, like I said, that same sort of threshold around 70 to 80% of the points that you can get from clues being done with the Clue Relic, it ceased to be useful, whereas I see Transmutation in this case being just useful for longer. So I'm going for Transmutation at Tier 4.
Makes sense. So off the bat, I'm going with clues, mainly because there are a lot of points behind that just to get to dragon. I mean, I was trying to find some accurate information on how much total points were basically locked behind clues for 4 and 5. You had mentioned like
it was
15 to
about
1800.
It was about 3,000 last
Well,
time.
okay. So
and I got about
in 4, I think it
that
was
down.
just on the lower end or the higher end of like 7,000. I think it was like 7,800 from what I found. Last league, it was like right around 4,900. And I think from watching some of the other live streams from Jagex saying that I think it's going to be even less this league. I'm just curious. Now, there is a world in which I take Transmutation over Conniving Clues because that can solve a couple more of the either 25, 35, or 50 mil skills for me. But it would have to be, base game. There's only like 2,000 or less beneath clues for it to make sense for me to go transmute, because I would basically need to make that up again in getting that 50 million in a skill. So that's, if I was only going for 99, that's an extra 600 points per. So if I can solve 2 or 3 other skills with transmutation that I wouldn't otherwise been able to, that's when I swap to transmute. But as of right now, I can't imagine there's going to be less than like 2,000 points in clues. So I'm just going to go clues and just have to grind them out. So. Because there's also a lot of collection logs, so that may not always be directly seen as a clue task.
Yep.
But there's, I mean, you can have bossing, but you're not going to get to 750 collection log slots if you don't do at least some clues. Just as a part of it, because that's kind of everywhere. So if you want to go crazy with PVM, you can, but clues really helps with that. So regardless if that's counted for kind of a clue slot, that's always something to sort of think about, is those global tasks as well. So yeah, clues it is for me.
Yeah, and there's always the option for you or me to reload into the other one if we ultimately decide we need the points from either of them by the time we get later on in the league. But Sirion, are you going to tell us about Butler's Bell, that you considered it at least?
I feel I have to, because you guys don't do this. You always leave me a relic to discuss, which is very nice. Yeah, Butler's Bell is interesting because it's basically miscellanea, managing miscellanea, but different, right? You get a butler and you tell it to either gather stuff or process stuff. You get some of the XP, but this proceeds even if you're offline. I think this is a interesting option, especially for the people who might not actually be able to play much. But I come back to my same argument. I want to play leagues, right? I don't want to not play leagues. So Butler's Bell, I was immediately like, that's not going to be an option for me. I'm going to be picking Transmutation as well. I've picked the Clue Relic both of the past 2 leagues. It is really powerful. I kind of want to see how far I get without it. It's sort of setting myself that challenge. Even though clues are really good, they are some of the most mind-numbing content to engage with, even if you can just teleport to all of the places.
And that's exactly it. It's just, I don't like doing clues. So
yeah. It's also not quite as powerful. You don't get infinite teleports to all of the clue locations. You still need to actually go there half the time. So it becomes like it doesn't even become mind-numbing as it was previously, where you just teleport there and click a button.
Yeah, there is a chance to get clue contracts from the clues if you choose this that can teleport you there, but it's not guaranteed.
Yes. So now I actually have to think about each step, and do I have a teleport there or do I use a contract? And like I just, it sounds like a hassle. I'm gonna go with Transmutation. Transmutation solves a lot for me. It gives me a source of rune essence, which I don't have. Together with the Blood Altar in Mauritania, this actually gives me a training method. I'm very sad that it turns into noted essence and not unnoted essence. Otherwise, I would have
too
just
easy.
the Blood Altar with a stack of air runes, turning it into rune essence, and just. But it doesn't work that way. But that's going to be great. Of course, it's also a really good crafting solve, because you can just buy sapphires, uncut sapphires in bulk, transmute them up into Dragonstone, and just cut those. And then you can sell them in the Tsar City and get yourself the Toko you need for some of the equipment there. So it solves a lot of these little things. I don't think I have even identified all of the solves yet, right? Like, I think I will find out things along the way, but that is what Transmutation gives me. Of course, being able to just carry the tome and a fire staff also means I can just cast High Alchemy whenever I want to, right? So that's sort of my ongoing, together with Hot Food. I no longer have to sell things to a shop. I can just High Alch them over time, and that's my GP solve from this point onwards. So I think that's where I'm going here.
Yeah, Transmutation, I think, makes sense in that regard. Pern?
Yeah, this is why, I mean, Clues was out after the last one. I wasn't going to do the Clues again. Butler's Bell I thought was really cool, where, you know, he does these unfinished herbs, you know, make my logs into planks and things like that. But again, Transmutation just seems to be the one that is
It's the fun option.
Yeah, it's also the most. Yeah, it's going to sort of affect more of the game for me. So I'm going Transmutation there as well. Again, basically for the same reasons you guys all said.
So Sirion said that I wasn't leaving him relics to discuss, or I was leaving him relics to discuss. Well, I'm going to discuss all the ones in Tier 5, because I, at various points, was considering going all these different relics in the theory crafting process up to this point. So our first one is Nature's Accord. This is the farming relic. Farming patches and plants no longer have a level requirement on them at all. So you can just, you get a spirit seed on day 1, bam, pop it in, you got a spirit tree. Also, you'll receive 10 times yield from farming patches, and it will be automatically noted. XP is granted for additional resources. Plants will never die, and you'll have a 20% chance to not use a seed or sapling when planting crops in patches. You also get the Fairy's Mushroom, which allows you to teleport to any fairy ring, spirit tree, or tool leprechaun. That, of course, auto-completes the Trino Village quest, ignores the wilderness teleport restrictions, and cannot be used to teleport to an area you haven't unlocked. So I was considering this one briefly because I'm the farming person, as people know, but then I realized, I actually like farming, and I don't necessarily know if I need the things that are going to come from this, because I have enough. I have enough herb patches and tree patches with my regions that I'm going to be picking, so I don't think Nature's Accord is something I need. The other thing that I considered deeply was Larcenist. This is the very powerful thieving relic. I think it's a must pick if you're taking Taranwin, so I could end up here if I decide to go no raid regions. But it's 100% success rate on all actions, automatically re-pickpocket an NPC, so it makes it like RS3 pickpocketing, automatically re-steal from a stall. Items obtained are noted. Stalls never deplete and guards will never catch you. And the amount of coin pouches you can carry is increased by 10. And additionally, all thieving loot is increased by 10 from pickpocketing stalls and valuables in Varlamore. And the interesting thing about this in particular is that when you look at some of the lower level NPCs and citizens that you can pickpocket in Menaphos, as well as the master farmers, that's where things like this 10x loot really, really starts to shine. So thieving, again, I gave this one a strong thought. Then we have Soul Harvest, which is a very interesting one because all drop bones and ashes will be turned into soul shards. And when harvesting any farming crop or when NPCs would drop bones or ashes, you will then get stackable soul shards. But these soul shards then can be used in place of pure essence while training runecrafting. 100 can also be sacrificed to the Liberation Bowl at the Tiamat in Varlamore for 550 prayer XP before League multipliers. So remember, combat skills have a multiplier of 1.5 on top of your existing League multiplier. So this is the prayer and runecrafting solve. I think with a high level of certainty here that I am going for Soul Harvest based on just the way everything has landed with all of my regions and all the other specific solves that exist at this point in time. I think Soul Harvest,
Solves a prayer.
it also solves two very important high-level tasks. We know there is a task to get a 200 mil combat stat and a task to get a 200 mil non-combat stat. These are those. So I'm going Soul Harvest.
Recrafting on prayer. Yeah.
That's the rundown of tier 6. Dave, or tier 5, where are you at?
Yeah, I was pretty gung-ho going Nature's Accord. I think there's a world. I'm about 95% Nature's Accord, 5% Soul Harvest. If I were to go Soul Harvest, I would really just kind of need to re-pick most of my other relics. But as of now, I'm pretty locked in with Nature's Accord. Again, it's yet another teleport relic, kind of hidden in a way, because you get the mushroom, so you get to all leprechauns, fairy rings, farming patches, which is easy for doing your farming runs. But it's also kind of the second part to my farming and herblore solve, right? So we're collecting all of our seeds with Woodsman, but with Nature's Accord, you're putting that into action, and you're getting that done. It's also nice. Nothing dies or diseases, so you don't have to worry about payments, especially for trees, because that's going to be a huge source of your XP sort of late game. So I think I'm locked in with Nature's Accord. Prayer isn't a huge solve I really have, other than using the altar in the wilderness,
right,
and collecting the bones, which kind of stinks.
We have superior dragon bones with transmute, or
right, yeah. So again, there's a world where I go Soul Harvest, but if I do that, I think Bank Heist would go to Evil Eye, but then again, I'm not gonna have that herb lore solve, and I don't think I want to give up Hotfoot or Woodsman to go Friendly Forager either. So, a prayer may be a slog with that getting bones, but I don't think I'm willing to give up farming and herb lore for something that I fairly have solved for runecrafting with Scar Essence Mine and then Bank Heist going to
right.
ZMI. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm pretty locked in with Nature's Accord. I would really have to be hard convinced and probably again rebuild half of my relic choices in order to go Soul Harvest. So, but
Okie dokie.
that's kind of where I'm landing.
Sirion?
Right. Soul Harvest, I love the thematics of this, right? Like I saw this and I was like, I want this. And this has been the theme of all of my leagues prep. Like there's a lot of things that I want to work. Friendly Forager, Soul Harvest, some of my combat builds. But when I start putting things together, they just don't. The thing with Soul Harvest is it solves two skills, right? It solves prayer and it solves RuneCraft. Prayer I have a soul for. With transmutation, I can turn all of the bones that I have into superior dragon bones over time. I then have access to the active fungus, which means I can, like, it will take some time to convert all of these bones into bone meal, but that's the AFK activity I can do if I'm not, if I'm not actively at my screen. And I just did the math. I need about 1,300 superior dragon bones to get this done. So let's round it up to 1,400, right? That's 100 inventories of bone meal and 100 inventories of slime. That's nothing, right?
We've
to
done
get to
bigger
99
grinds
prayer.
than that before. Yeah.
Exactly. That gets me 99 prayer. Now, do I want to do this all the way to 50 mil? Maybe not. Do I want to get this to 200 mil? Probably, definitely not. But like, these are not bad grinds. So that's prayer solved. And then this comes to the point that Dave said earlier, right? I don't like taking relics to solve one skill. This is why I didn't take Friendly Forager either. And Soul Harvest would only solve one skill.
Because
So
you
I
have,
was stuck.
because you're in the desert.
Yes. Yeah. So I was stuck on this tier for a very long time because Larcenist didn't really feel worth it unless you pick the right regions. And Nature's Accord, like you said, I don't mind farming. Getting the seeds with transmutation, I can get any seeds I want. I can get ultra compost. It might take me a little bit more time, but I think I can probably figure out the herbs over time. I don't think it's going to be a big problem. Also, I'm going to be doing a lot of PVM, and let's be honest, there's a lot of herb drops from PVM anyway. So then my region started coming in. Mauritania is in there. Larcenist plus pickpocketing virus sounds like a lot of fun. That also gives me all of the blood shards, so I can just camp the Blood Fury at all of the bosses, which gives me a little bit of sustain, which I'm missing otherwise. Larcenist just solved a bunch of stuff for me. It allows me to also get seeds from farmers really easily that I can just transmute up to the herbs that I need. I don't know if I can pickpocket herbs directly, but I can transmute them, so that's probably not it. But I'm pretty sure that with pickpocketing, there's a bunch of good souls here.
Yeah.
So I'm going Larcenist.
I agree. I think you landed where you need to be on that. Soul Harvest doesn't really make sense because you have Guardians of the Rift and the Desert or RuneCrafting minigame. So
yes, I wasn't really. I know that I have another soul in RuneCraft and Guardians of the Rift, which I don't like to be my soul because I don't really want to grind that. But very worst case, Map of Alacrity has a pretty close teleport to the True Blood Altar, so I can just literally do
right.
blood altar crafting. Plus, I have access to the Day Old Essence Mine, which gives me double RuneCraft XP per rune. So, and that's another thing I can AFK. So as you can see, sort of the different AFK activities
is stackable?
When you mine it, yes.
When you mine it, then you talk to an NPC who turns all of the shards you've mined into essence in your bank, and then it's no longer stackable.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. Pern.
And again, for me, Larcenist, obviously with Tyranwen, that auto pickpocketing is such a good thing rather than having to click every time. The 100% success rates. This will probably be the skill I get to 200 mil as well because it's a nice AFK skill.
Yeah.
It just seemed to make the most sense. Soul Harvest really sounded cool because I do want to do some Slayer, of course. And having soul shards, to do sort of the rune crafting, and such, I thought sounded cool. But I think just with the areas I'm in, I think lastness makes the most sense for me.
I would
I
agree.
think it's a no-brainer with thriftiness.
Yeah.
Alrighty, moving on to tier 6. In tier 6, we actually just got a new relic in tier 6 today that was announced. I'll start there.
It's the shortest description of a relic ever, I believe.
Eternal sustenance. Food is no longer consumed when eaten.
So you just have to take one piece of food when you go to.
Well, 2, because you want Karambwan for the no tick, and then a tick one, because then you can stack them. But yeah, so it's an inventory hack more than anything in that regard.
Yeah.
Then we have Grimoire, which allows you to use any spell book and any magic book, and any.
What is a Book of the Dead?
It allows you to cast. It is necessary to cast the resurrection spells. The resurrection spells are in the Arceus spellbook, which you will have access to. You will have access to the Book of the Dead as well, because you're picking Current as a region. And they allow you to summon thralls, which are basically temporary minions that do damage alongside you.
So like the minions in Necromancy.
Yes.
Cool.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
It also allows you to access all the prayers without needing to unlock them. So you choose this if you want ancients, but you're not going the desert, as an example. And then we have Culling Spree. When you're assigned a Slayer task, you'll be able to choose from 3 options, and you'll also be able to choose how many you want to slay, between 5 and 200. Additionally, upon slaying a superior Slayer monster, there's a 50% chance you'll get another one. Superior Slayer creatures will always drop between 1 and 3 elite clue scrolls. You always get the effects of wearing a Slayer helmet without wearing one. And you can purchase any of the Slayer reward store perks for free. And you also get the Rune Pouch, Herb Sack, and Looting Bag for free from Slayer Masters. This is what I'm going for my tier 6. And I think this synergizes nicely with the Wilderness and my later region choices with this one. And everybody knows I'm not a fan of Slayer, so being able to choose my Slayer task and choose how many I want to kill at each one, this is tremendously beneficial to me. So I will be going Culling Spree at tier 6.
Yep, no, that's exactly the reason I am going Culling Spree as well. Wilderness, I feel like, again, we don't have the task list, but we can kind of glean from the past 2 leagues. At least 30%, if not more, of Wilderness tasks are locked behind Slayer to some extent or another, whether it be drops you get from Laren's chest, which are you receive keys from doing tasks in the Wilderness, and then all of the weapons you get from Revenants. This just makes it a lot easier. This, again, is what's going to allow me to pseudo-force rev tasks, right? So you're going to get a Slayer task. Hopefully it's one of them that I want, obviously Revenants, or something I can kill in the Wilderness. If it's not, I'm going to say I'll kill 5 of these. And as soon as it's something I want, I'm going to kill 200, right? So we get all that. All the unlocks are free. Eternal Sustenance. Really, with any build, I would hope that... I don't see really a build in combat with Pacts, which we'll get into, where you're not just overhealing crazy, right?
Here's the race guy.
well, there you go. But in most cases, I don't see where that's. I mean, that would be an early game solve, but being at tier 6, you're not in the early game anymore. So that's not really a pick. And then Grimoire, unless you're really dead set on a certain spell book, again, I would not pick this just for Lunars for Arania Teleport. I'm definitely Culling Spree is just kind of a no-brainer for me, especially with Wilderness.
And Culling Spree, I forgot to add, also synergizes with Kandarin and our level 93 Echo Boss that we got there. So
yep, absolutely.
Sirion.
Yeah, when Eternal Sustenance came out today, I had to think for a second, because my combat builds don't actually have that much built-in sustain, because the 2 sustained paths are really water magic and some of the melee stuff. And here I am going ranged. I don't really have sustain built in. I have thought about it, and I don't know if I need it. But I also realized I'm probably going to hybrid into melee anyway, and I can probably pick up some of the sustain stuff along the way. That being said, the main thing I want to be grinding is TOA, and like one of the invocations you pick is you can't bring any hard food to begin with. And since Eternal Sustenance only applies to hard food and not like brews, it doesn't really get me, the sustain. Would it be nice in getting to Colosseum and getting to Inferno, two of the main goals I want to do? Yeah, for sure. But I think I can find ways to get through that otherwise. And I don't like Slayer, right? And I haven't really done that in previous leagues, but for once, I was really looking forward to leaning into it. So I decided to stick with Culling Spree. It also makes sense with my regions, right? Echo Cerberus is a Slayer boss. Echo Grotesque Guardians is a Slayer boss. Calphite Queen, I can get a Slayer task for that. And because I always get the benefit from a Slayer mask, it means that at all of these bosses I will be grinding, I get a flat out accuracy improvement, right? Which is like all of this is just a flat increase to DPS. I can force the task I need for the boss I want to kill, and I can get the Slayer helmet benefits from it. It just makes sense.
Agree.
I do think
okay.
I do think that the Grimoire is really good. Like I did consider it. In a previous loadout, I had Feminic as a region. Luna spells can add a lot of interesting solves to your skills. But no.
Alrighty. Pern?
Yeah, Culling Spree for me as well. I mean, I like Slayer. I'm not as big a fan of it early game on OSRS, obviously, but as we get later on, and yeah, choosing your task, and if you get 3 shitty ones, I mean, okay, I'll take 5 of those, knock it out, and then go back and get the next one.
This is the first relic tier where we're all the same.
Yeah, it just seemed to make most sense. I mean, Eternal Sustenance, I mean, for someone who is not good at PVM like myself, is probably good. But
maybe it prevents eternal suffering.
Exactly. But I just think what this one offers just has, it just has a lot more to offer an all-round sort of play.
Yeah, I like the fact that this is in the tier that it's in up against the relics it is in as well. Because in last league, the equivalent of this, which was Slayer Master, was up against Production Master and the Clue Relic. And anybody trying to cap points or get Dragon Trophy almost all picked the Clue Relic. So it really didn't give you the opportunity to try this out. And I think it's a lot. I like how they've switched some of the tiers and what relics are up against it to where, Grimoire is not the most powerful. It's kind of shown up in most leagues. Eternal Sustenance is obviously new, but Culling Spree, they shifted that to where they're not forcing you to pick it, but you can pick it and you can kind of build around that. So I really like how they've mixed that up a little bit. So
yeah, I think Eternal Sustenance, like a lot of people are saying it's bad, like it is an amazing PVM crutch. Like don't underestimate it.
Yeah.
You can literally just spam click a shark, right? And you can out heal most of the mechanics, and it will probably unlock a whole bunch of cheesing of mechanics. In Gridmaster, we had a similar item. We had like an infinite shark that we could keep killing, which of course got replaced very quickly by the fact that at some point we got a power that allowed us to drink potions without draining it. So you make one Sarah Brew, one restore, and you're set for life, right? But yeah, it is really, really, really amazing.
Moving on to tier 7. I'm just going to mention
You have to introduce Reloaded. I
want to mention Flow State first because I don't know that we're going to get a chance to talk about it otherwise.
I mean, I will talk about it because
okay.
Yeah.
Reloaded, you just go back and you pick another relic, which normally Reloaded is somewhere in the tier 4 or tier 5 range. But with it being all the way at tier 7 here, that opens up some amazing power options here. And my present plan, the way I'm going right now, has me reloading into...
No, I need to pick it below. Yeah.
Oh, reloading into Hotfoot. There we go. That's what I have planned here as sort of the late agility and smithing solve. I don't know if that will be needed. Like I said, I open the possibility later on to reloading into Forager, Clues, Larcenist, and maybe even Nature's Accord if something like that would be needed, probably in that priority order. But I'm thinking Hotfoot presently right now, just because my plan as of this point had such a huge smithing hole in it, aside from just, go and, make bars and go and do conventional smithing. So that's where I landed on that. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, the same. Like I said, my tier 2, I was originally going Hotfoot to reload into Woodsman, but I'm pretty sure I will be reloading into Hotfoot just for that agility solve again. Monkey Lapse and Kandarin, kind of a pain, but also the smithing as well. Now I have Giant's Foundry and Desert, so I do have a bit of a smithing solve there. But tying back to what Sirion said, this will be more of a late game moneymaker for me. Getting those bars, just being able to alch those. I will need some sort of a construction solve. I think early on that's going to be elemental balances. But if I want to get kind of crazy, I can use this to get a cash stack to just at the very end get my magic stones, get my gold sinks, stuff like that. So I think Hotfoot really makes the most sense. And if I get to tier 7 and I'm basically done with agility and I'm already done with my laps, maybe I do go into either transmute or soul harvest. We'll just kind of have to see, but just kind of going by a general skill completion, because I would like to max. I think Hotfoot makes the most sense, so that's what I'm sticking with for now. So
all right, it's the same sort of logic as me.
Yeah.
Sirion, were you considering flow state at all?
Yeah, so flow state is interesting. It basically turns any scaling action into a 2-tick action, which it really depends what skill you're doing, how much of a difference this makes. Mining, not so much. Fishing, huge increase, right? Because normally you fish every 5 ticks. So it is a really interesting one. And this is why I said, like, if you take abundance, you take this as well, and all of a sudden, like, everything speeds up. And this is essentially how I am treating this tier, right? My tier 7 is going to be, I want to, like, this is where I will not be going into a solve. I don't think I have anything left to solve with my build. I think I have reasonable solutions for everything. If that is indeed true, I will probably go flow state, because it doesn't solve anything new, right? Like, flow state is one of those things, it is not a solve for anything, but it will make all of your existing stuff faster. However, my most likely pick here is I will probably reload into, and I hate to say it, oh my god, I hate this so much, Conniving Clues. Because
I see that for the points.
Exactly. Like I said, this is the stage where I want to speed things up, and clues do snowball you with
if you
points.
need to pick me
now,
up to tier 8, there you go.
Why do I pick up Conniving Clues now, and why do I not switch around Transmutation and Conniving Clues? This is where Culling Spree comes in, because Culling Spree increases the chance you get clue scroll drops from Slayer monsters. This is also the point in time where I'm starting to kill Echo bosses, which drop elite clues. So by this time, I will have saved up my stacks of clues. I get Conniving Clues, and I use this to boost myself a whole bunch of points forward. I'm conscious that this is only going to be a one-off benefit, right? Like, it's going to get me a bunch of points. It's going to get me a bunch of gear. I probably want to have Blessed D'hide as my ranged gear. So this probably comes at sort of the right point to sort of make future things faster. But flow state does the same for scaling, right? So it's going to come down to, in the moment, what I want to do. But I want to use it as an accelerator for the rest of leagues.
Yeah, and when you look at it from that perspective, we'll see how many points I'm at tier 7 to tier 8. if the clues at that point make sense. And then that's
Right.
a even more compelling argument
Yeah,
to go into clues
exactly.
than hot-footed.
Look, maybe I'm finding that I am still have so many tasks left at points, and I really don't need the clues. Maybe that's different, but yeah. And I could see myself, do I find that the herbs are a bigger problem than I thought? I could go and reload in the friendly forager. Do I find that farming is a problem? I can get nature's accord. So I do see myself as, this is a bit of a wild card to fix any gaps that I might find, but my default is probably going to be going into conniving clues if there's really a lot of points there.
I like the fact that reloaded is an option, but it's so late this time. It was tier 4 last league, and you probably weren't really even close to getting your second region. So like you get power miner and people were reloading into lumberjack. So it's like you're kind of wasting that if you pick it.
Yeah.
The fact that it's only up against one other relic, and the fact it's so late, kind of from what we've all said so far, is this is going to be, let's kind of see where we're at, state of where our account is, what makes the most sense. If this is solved, then we do that, or we go through. And I really like the fact that, as much as I love planning, I like how it gives us that sort of, we need to reevaluate. Yeah, it's a fallback. It's a kind of a reevaluation, because if things didn't go right, look, I just don't want to sit here and camp ZMI for 15 hours. I'm reloading into Soul Harvest. We're just going, right? So it gives that we can plan, but at the same time, we can also kind of just think on the fly and get what needs to be done.
It's always important
to basically waste it.
To have contingencies. And I was asked about this the other day. Somebody discovered that my Windows computer is named the Plan B, and I had to explain to them that, if the Mac ever goes down, we needed another option to be able to record podcasts on it. So that's why I call the Windows computer the Plan B. So it's always important to have a Plan B in addition to Plan A.
Yep, absolutely.
And there was also in the Supreme Commander RTS series way back in the day, they had a nuclear submarine that was named the Plan B that would be deployed if all was left. Just some fun little tidbits there. Anyway, sorry, Perd, what are you doing for tier 7?
No, this again, I mean, seeing Reloaded this late is fantastic, because even in RS3 I mean, it was 4th, and I've done what I need to do. I don't know if I'm going to need any of those later on. So having it up here is fantastic. Again, I mean, flow state. If I'm right on points and I just want to start, hitting those 50 mils and such, yeah, flow state might be the way to go. But I don't foresee having everything solved by this. So again, if I need a whole bunch of points, it's going to be conniving clues. If I'm struggling with prayer and runecrafting, and in my areas, I'm not sure how I'm going to go with those, it may be soul harvest. If I've got a lot of points done, but most of my stuff is going to be in bossing and such, I may end up going eternal sustenance.
With your map of Alacrity and Corinth, you do have a pretty good runecrafting solve.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So again, at this stage, I would probably be looking at points. So it will most likely lean towards conniving clues. But I think Woodsman was the other one I thought was quite good. Let me just go back, which was, again, I don't know how I'm going to go with Hunter. So actually probably leaning, because that also gives me a bit of an extra solve on a couple of others. So yeah, probably leaning more towards Woodsman there.
All right, fair enough. And then we get to tier 8, the tier that we don't have all the relics for. We're missing one right now. We have Minion, which gives you the Minion Whistle that brings in a powerful minion for 30 minutes that will attack your target with whatever style it's weak against. And when in multi-combat, it will cast an AoE attack if the target is weakest to range or magic. It has a min hit of 3, a max hit of 10, and an accuracy of 45,000. The whistle can, of course, also consume Zamorak items to improve the minion's max hit by 2 per item. The minion will try to automatically loot items from creatures you kill, including fired ranged ammo. You can set the minimum threshold on it. It will deal damage to targets which are immune to thralls, and it will not fight in PvP or will not fight against Yama. Then we have the Flask of Fervor. When consumed, hit points to full, prayer points to full, special attack to full, and then over the next 2.4 seconds, you will get 3 explosions, which deals 60% of your base prayer level to all enemies within 3 tiles of you as typeless damage, reducing all damage you take to 0, and will not deal damage to Yama. It has a cooldown of 3 minutes, where for every 10 damage you deal in a single hit to reduce the cooldown 0.6 seconds. The perk will also work inside the gauntlet. I'm waiting to see what the last relic is here. So I'm going to just say, right now I would lean Flask out of these two, but I'm just going to take a pass and say that I have not decided on this because I need to know what the last relic is. So I'm sorry to be a little bit boring there on that.
No, that's a fair point. I think just total speculation, but I think what is expected or what people are thinking is it's going to be a defensive relic.
Yeah,
there's a lot of memes going around with turtle and stuff like that. So we'll see kind of where it lands, but it's also we had specialist the past couple leagues as well, which leans heavily on special attack. So it could go kind of either way with the relic that we're missing, but who knows? I believe we're getting that here shortly, so we'll see. As it stands now, I think I'm going minion. With my combat build, I think, again, I'm going to be hitting so heavy and healing and stuff like that. I'm not sure Flask is where it's at. This is kind of a twist on last league, last stand, and that was more of a cheat death type relic to where it would you would trigger it once you went down to 0 HP. In this case, it is more of a offensive thing. You can use it whenever you want. It's not, hey, once you die, you get buffed and you do all this stuff. You can keep using it. You are able to reduce the cooldown, but again, I think with the build I'm going with my packs, minion just is a little bit more utility. The big thing for me is the auto loot. It's just auto loot, especially on Slayer tasks. It's just going to bring me all the stuff, and it's always nice just to have somebody else kind of there helping you, an extra source of damage. Since I don't have lunars and thralls, this is basically my thrall. And there was one other thing with minion. It does help me quite a lot. Since the past 2 leagues, I've selected this sort of combat support relic with demonic gorillas, with them switching between combat styles. And the grind there is one of the biggest ones that I've experienced in Kandarin. Is you have to kill a certain amount, like 300, but you also need to get all of the ballista parts. And I think both leagues, I even went like 1,200 until I finished all that out. So that's a bit of a grind. So that really helped me out with that. So not really taking it for that one task in particular, it does help. And there's really no situation where this would hurt you, so to speak. So that's kind of where I'm landing with minion. So
all right, fair enough. Sarah.
Yeah, so this is going to come down a lot to what the last relic is going to be. Like I said, I have an option now that looks okay, but sustain in my combat build is a lot harder than before. The flask is pretty great because it allows you to not quite skip, but make certain mechanics a lot easier. And given some of the tasks I need to do, for example, like Awakened Leviathan has a really incredibly rough and rage phase, right? Like even in Gridmaster, where I was completely kitted out, I struggled getting through that. So the flask is going to be that oh shit button that allows me to go through it. However, I think I'm still leaning towards minion. And the reason for that is it's just, if you do the actual DPS calculations, the amount of DPS you can shell out with the minion compared to the explosions from the flask is significantly higher. The second thing is, if you think back about my prayer soul that I need to pick up a whole bunch of bones. If I read this correctly and the minion picks up bones and notes them for me, this is my prayer solve, right? My minion
that's
is my
huge.
prayer solve.
Yes.
Yes. And that it says, you can, whether or not these should be noted is configurable on the whistle. I'm like,
What
if
does
you
it
can
mean
note
by
all
try?
I think if it can't reach it or something like that's
Okay.
my assumption. So yeah, that being said, if the third relic here is some kind of turtle relic, right, and it is really defensive, then maybe that fixes a big gap in my combat build. If it is specialist, I am probably not going to care, though. If I am going to grind for a Zarite crossbow, specialist would go hard, I suppose. But I don't know. But I don't expect it to be specialist because there's quite a few special attack things already in the demonic pact. So I have no idea what it's going to be. There's also a lot of, defensive and sustained things in demonic pact. So I don't really know what gap would be filled here, but we'll find out.
Okie dokie. Pern.
Yeah, I mean, Flask of Fervor seems to be the better one for me. It depends how once if I get to that level, of course. But yeah, it'll depend sort of how I'm going once I sort of hit that higher level, whether I'll need to protect those sort of hit points and prayer points, or whether I'm doing okay well enough that, the minion's going to be better to just give me that extra DPS. So at this stage, a Flask of Fervor, because I'm not a great PVMer, but yeah. And again, if the other one is, we'll see what happens with the last one, but yeah.
Yeah, the flask is great as a panic button. And it allows you to cheese and skip certain mechanics.
But it is only 3 minutes every 3 minutes, I think it said.
Yes, but you can reduce it. So I did the math with my DPS. You're probably looking at sort of 2 minutes of cooldown instead. So yeah. The minion, on the other hand, the interesting thing about the minion is what you can do at many bosses is you can just focus on surviving and not necessarily do damage and just let your minion kill go to boss. And it will be slow, but you're sort of busy with like switches and all of that.
What I like, the whistle can consume up to 5 unique equipable Zamorak items.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that'll be from Krill, and that'll give me extra
clues. Well. If you do clues, you will get a lot of
Zamorak
items.
Zamorak. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool.
Yes. Though I have God Wars Dungeon, so I do intend to just drop, to feed it Krill's items.
I wonder, does the top and bottom of the Monka Zamorak robe count, probably? Unholy symbol?
That might count. Is there a list? There's no list.
Because those are 3 easy gimmies if that's the case.
So you've got Zamorak Staff, Cape, Unholy Book, Unholy Blessing, Unholy Symbols. There you go. Zamorak Robes, Elder Chaos, Dagon High.
So that's
Zamorak
3
Rune
easy
Armor.
ones at least off the bat. And then
you're in Wilderness, so once you do Mage Arena, you can just claim a cape and a staff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Unholy Symbols, you just have to, you can make those from crafting. Make a whole lot of those.
But they need to be unique. You need 5 unique ones. So.
Of course, yeah.
All right.
Inquisitor's Armor. So any of my duplicate TOB drops, I can just feed to it. That's nice.
Well,
Line of Zamorak? Is Zamorak Brew?
Oh, maybe.
No.
I appreciate everybody for staying here and going through this with us. You know one thing that old school players love the most? The evolution of combat.
Oh, go away. I'm out. I'm leaving.
Specifically the evolution of combat when it comes to leagues and the masteries that are involved in that. We mentioned that in Trailblazer, you had 1 combat relic, just like we had in the RS3 one. Then we had a series of combat masteries last year in Raging Echoes. And now may I present to you
Hacks of Exile.
Yep.
an entire skill tree for enhancing combat and evolving combat in leagues. So
I'm gonna
it's
be
like,
honest. When they dropped this, I think I just sat there and my brain just errored.
Just blanked out.
Yeah, just blanked out. Like
you
I
get
couldn't comprehend this.
you get 40 pact points by completing various tasks across the league, which are detailed in the Demonic Pacts news post. Okay. They vary in complexity, which, I mentioned at the top that kind of influenced some of my region choices. I think the most interesting thing here is that you can have up to 40 at max, but I think there's something like 130 options on this tree that you could choose from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. How does somebody pick this if they don't know what they're doing? Like, what's the deal here? Do you just Google it?
Yeah, I
I
so.
think you kind of, and it goes with philosophy. I think you'd almost have to work backwards. You find your kind of capstones, is what they call them, at the very end.
Right.
See what you like the best, and the fact that we can pick more than one, that sort of starts your build, so to speak.
So if you
see what
wanted a
style
basic
looks.
water, you just click that, and there you go. 9
Click
points.
that kind of shows you how to get there, and then I always like to see what's around it. So like that looks good, but there's two things where it reduces the tick of combat spells and then reduces the ticks of charged stabs and stuff. So yeah, you find kind of your capstone, and then you kind of work backwards and see what synergizes with it. And once you read some of the tooltips there, oh, we're generating a water rune. Okay, well, what does that mean? And then once you kind of see some other ones, you realize there's actions that happen when you regenerate ammo and water runes. So it kind of cascades down, which you have to kind of work from top down to figure out what you want to do with that. So
okay, I want to make this really simple for people here. And Sirion, maybe you could take us through this starter one here first, if that's where you want to begin with.
Yeah, so pack points. You have 40 in total. There is 7 in each region, and then there's a few global ones, and the total adds up to 40. I don't know the exact distribution. It doesn't matter. That also sort of means that there's a lot of people, like the moment this came out, like within hours we had these are how I would spend my 40 points, right? And the problem with that is you need to get those 40 points first, and to get 40 points you need to do all kinds of combat related tasks.
They're not all easy.
Some of these, and no, even with you being quite overpowered, some of these are quite tough. So one of the things I tried setting out to do is what is a quick build I can do and I can get to with relatively few points. So this is 9 points, I think. You can take out 4 and you can get here with 8 as well and slowly build up. But I think this will carry me quite long. And you might wonder, but what then? You can earn up to 3 V-Spec points that basically allow you to reset the entire tree and start from scratch. And I fairly early on decided I'm going to work around those, right? I'm going to first build something that works with relatively few points and gets me strong enough to get that first V-Spec points.
We need to talk about a
whole bunch of extra pack points.
With that, the Moon's Apparel in particular.
Yeah, so in my case, what I want to do is one of the mid-game combat encounters, combat bosses you have in Varlamore are the Moons of Peril. They're basically barrows on steroids. They have similar loot mechanics, but 2025 era mechanics. And they drop armor sets for each of the 3 styles. There is melee, there's magic, which is hybrid with melee, and there's range that's hybrid with melee. And those sets are good enough that even in the main game, they're enough to get into raiding and carry you quite deep into the game. So
I just want to make a comment about how strong these can be, specifically on the melee side. Everybody knows I hate Barbarian Assault, and in terms of power armor in OS, it goes from I think it's Obsidian to the Fighter's Torso to Bandos, but Bandos is super, super expensive. Whereas the melee offering from Moons as a power armor piece is actually somewhat more affordable. So when Moon's Apparel came out, it was great for people at the mid-level, like we were at the time.
Yeah, Blood Moon has the same strength bonus as Bandos, so it is quite powerful, but it doesn't have the same level of defense, so you lose out on that. I think it has slightly better magic defense than Bandos, but it really falls far behind on anything related to melee and ranged. But yeah, so this build, what this does is it is built around the concept of a light weapon. That means a weapon that is less than 1 kilogram. That is not quite a lot, but the Dragon Dagger is a very accessible one that fits this style. And with this build, I basically set it up. It attacks a tick faster, so you have a 2-tick dagger, which is crazy. And it does a minimum of 3 damage. And I think there's can you hover over the most top one? I forgot what that one does. Oh yeah, and your strength is increased. Now, I am picking Barbarian Gathering, which means that I will have a whole bunch of strength levels just sitting around by the time I do PvM. So this is great for me. And I'm basically thinking that with this melee build, because the moons are melee bosses, they don't really work with other styles. The Echo boss in Varlamore, the first Echo boss, is a Moxniator, which also is very melee focused. This is basically my like we said, snowball build, right? And I can fairly easily upgrade to a whip, which is also less than 1 kilogram, and get all of the same benefits with a higher tier weapon.
And I think this makes absolute sense because the Moons provides that melee armor. It provides magic armor, and it can provide ranged armor as well. And that can carry you out into your other regions. So you're definitely going to probably want to do some Moons when you're in Varlamore. And I'm going to be running something like this from the very beginning to get through that Varlamore stuff. Yeah. So thank you for
so this requires like 9 points. And I think you can easily get this. Like I think the hardest you might have to do is get a Fire Cape. If you need to even do that, but like 9 pack points are really fairly easy to get. If you're willing to delay this and you want to get your first region before you get this deep into your combat, then that's going to be even easier.
Yeah,
you need to kill a werewolf or something like that. Like, meh, right?
Okie dokie. Then I'm going to blow everyone's mind, and I'm going to go to your 40-point spec that you're planning. Take us through this.
Yeah. So this one is mostly focused around crossbows.
Where do you want me to start?
Yeah, let's start with here. Let's start here with the crossbows.
Okay.
And the one I want you to focus on is the ones where the tree merges below the heart that I haven't picked. Slightly up. That one down. That one.
That one.
This is the big crossbow one. Attacks of crossbows are 2 ticks slower, but deal plus 70% damage. This is where the main crossbow powerhouse comes in. Then, if you work down to the 2 capstones, crossbows hits always max hit. That is ridiculous. And they roll accuracy twice and take the highest result, which solves a lot of your accuracy issues. This is a ranged powerhouse. This is sort of the main thing I want to go with. So everything around that is sort of built around this. It sort of improves my ranged. The main power that ranged gets this leagues is something called ranged echoes, which means if you hit something, there's a small chance that an echo appears that does damage. And then over time, you can generate even more echoes. So that's sort of what's going on here. The downside with the crossbows is that they attack slower, which is fewer chances to actually hit with echoes. So that's why I don't terribly like crossbows. The problem with bows is that they're boring. Well. Yeah. The problem with bows is that they're a little bit boring, and the problem with thrown is that it's also a little bit boring. And it just doesn't do as well on the DPS. Like I threw all of this in the DPS calculator, and even with a rune crossbow, you can out DPS a twisted bow, which is the best in slot bow in the game. Yes.
What?
At most bosses, a rune crossbow with this pack build out DPSs a T-bow, a twisted bow with completely maxed out bow packs.
What the hell?
Now, Also, Onyx bolts actually do better than ruby bolts. And the nice thing about Onyx bolts is that they heal you, have a chance to heal you if they proc. So there is a potential sustain built in here as well.
All right.
Now, the nice thing about crossbows is that they're one-handed, which means I can carry a shield,
Which would come up to here.
Which means I can spec into the thorns side of the melee tree, which basically, if you get hit, you and you're wearing a shield, you do damage to the person that hit you. So I went down that entire tree as well. So I get to have the benefit of that melee tree while ranging with my crossbow. I did, as you can see, spec into some of the one-handed weapon stuff. So the ones there. The nice thing is what this gives me is the Echo Cerberus Echo Drop item is basically a dragon dagger that is even better with like an amazing special attack. Given that I will probably not be getting the Zarite crossbow, my idea is basically every now and then I switch to the dagger and I just dump all of my specs on the boss, and then I switch back. And there are, because of this as well, the Thorns also heals me. There's another heal up there. So actually, this turned out to be the most sustained build I could make with ranged. It just relies on getting a good crossbow, which that's why I hate it. I want the bow to work. And that's why probably this is going to not be my first spec. After my first respec, I'm probably going to try and either make throne work together with a Noxious Halberd in Mauritania.
That sounds neat.
Exactly. And I'm going to...
Are you going to do the 7 halberd range?
Yes, absolutely I am. Yes. So I will probably do that with the Noxious Halberd and the Drago Blowpipe, and I want to get the Tonalsatix as well, which is the weapon from the Colosseum. Play around with that a little bit. We'll see. If that feels good, and if I do the DPS I want to do with that, I'll stick with it. Otherwise, I might stick to either this build if I have a good crossbow, or I might go with a bow build if I want to go with a twisted bow. So I will definitely be using my respecs to experiment with different builds.
Perfect. Well, I have a simple idea to begin with, and then something that is, fully realized into a full sustain Thorns build that, has been shared with me. I did some of the work on this early one when we first saw it, and I really like the idea of water magic in particular. Because as I mentioned at the top of the show, one of the things I wanted to do and picked up on from last league is I really wanted the vampire healing build last time, and I didn't get to do that with Melee. So I said I'm going to look into exactly what's going to provide me the most sustain and comfiness this league, and lo and behold, that turns out to be water magic. And Siron, you and I were talking about this. We can get this build up to a point here where it's got 130 plus accuracy in combat styles and 45 prayer penetration, as well as reflect damage if you wield a shield, all while healing yourself and having massive overheal with this node right here. Demonic Pacts heal up to plus overheals you up to 30% of your base hit points level. So
yeah, this is probably more healing and regeneration than you need,
but I mean, it should be comfy, right? And the thing is with this is that the first build will definitely be the melee one that you mentioned. Then we'll go into a water regen and we'll see how much of that I need. Then from there we can decide if we're going to go full thorns or if we want to go into something like air or fire magic as a side. But that's my general plan as of right now. Pretty much committed to the magic bit.
Yeah. I think Dave is going to go into something else entirely. So I will take this moment and talk a little bit about something that is also interesting and I've seen around quite a lot. The air branch is incredibly powerful. It allows it's been called the air nuke at this point because all of this is sort of built around prayer bonus. If you do a few clues and get like a full set of vestments, you can do a ton and an absolute ton of damage to air magic. So another fun one to look into if you want to basically turn into a massive nuke.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I am committed to Magic, but wow. Okay. Tell us about the King's Barrage, Dave. This is a weird looking one.
Yeah. So it's leveraging, and this is assuming I get 40 out of 40. Some of the pact tasks in Desert specifically are pretty raids heavy, and it relies a lot on RNG. So I mean, I can't think that I'm going to realistically get a Fang drop and stuff like that. So I kind of had it boiled down to about 30. But basically, kind of the way it goes, and I was speaking with Shane about this. Kind of prior to earlier this week, part of the show, with early Varlamore. Not many of the bosses are weak to anything but melee, right? So Moons is mostly melee. You're not going in there with a bow. You're not going in there with a staff. So I was really kind of torn on that, but after doing some more research and kind of seeing what's going on, I think I can kind of solve a lot of that since it is fairly mid-game content. By the time you're kind of ready to move on to Karumja, you will be mid-level kind of area with, especially with your boosts, with leveling up and stuff like that. So I'm not too focused on kind of specking into melee early just to go straight to mage. So with this, I'm gonna start kind of going into mage, going into the sustained water spell route. I know the powered staff. I'm unlocking Kinderin first. I don't get that until 93, but I can still play around with just regular water spells and just getting a little bit of healing and sustain with that to get a lot of my combat tasks done. Not necessarily bossing, but kind of go that route.
I see you have the ice node selected.
Yes. So with that being said, going into Desert, again, Mage Training Arena, we're going to get a lot of magic levels with that. But then it kind of really starts to shine, obviously, when I unlock Wilderness, okay? So the Echo weapon that drops from Echo KBD is called King's Barrage, and it is a two-handed crossbow, and it fires 2 bolts, okay? And one of them is a standard range hit. The other one acts as like an ice. They first said it was an ice barrage like effect, but they confirmed that it is counting as an ice barrage spell. Okay, so going down the crossbow list, you see that we have 70% damage, right? But it's slower. But it also, what's the one next to the always max hit? Okay, so as you see to the like far right and just underneath the powered staff, and then directly north, you have all the healing nodes. So basically, I'm nuking everything while getting all of those overheals and sustained. So I have not put it into a DPS calculator yet, but the amount of hits you're going to get that's coming back to me, I will basically, hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes right, will be sitting around 160 to 188 HP, just absolutely destroying things. And especially the bosses in the Wilderness, that some of them are movement heavy. I just sit there, move 3-4 tiles away, and you'll see that on the far left node in the kind of range tree, whenever you max hit from at least 3 tiles away, your hit from a different style deals 25% damage. Okay, well, I'm a crossbow. All you need to do is make sure you're 3 tiles away. I already have a capstone that says it's going to max hit every single time, but I have something that counts 1 bolt counts as range, 1 bolt counts as magic, so it's always getting that boost. So it's just a max sustain, just nuke build as well. So that's where it really starts to shine. I'm kind of just going to be flopping and floundering around with mage until it makes a little bit more sense, but once I get the King's Barrage, it's going to be just deleting things, so to speak. So super excited.
So in that way, since I have Wilderness as well, that Echo KBD item provides me a way to have a ranged weapon, but also still utilize my ice magic if I take
correct. And that's the thing is, in another thing I could go into, but I don't see it happening since I would probably go straight into mage, is I could also do kind of a Thorns crossbow build, but since the KBD bow is two-handed, I don't have that in-game option. Right. So that could be something I go into mage. Once I get into a little bit more Kandarin and Desert, I could maybe respec and go into that shield RuneScape thing to kind of get me there. But then ultimately, this is where I'm going to land, and I'm super excited about it. So
Excellent. Well, that's 3 builds there. Pern.
No idea.
is your mind scrambled?
So I'm looking at this going, what the hell? I don't even know how I'm going to earn the points for the thing. Because I'm having a look on the thing. It's got demonic pacts, but it doesn't tell me where to earn the points
Oh, okay.
from.
I can help you with that. So if we go to the demonic pacts overview, or even on the wiki, but I'll just use the news post one here. There's a task list showing where all the pact points come from. So you get 2 from the League's tutorial. Defeating a hill giant is 1. Combat 50 is 1. Activating Protect from melee is another 1.
Okay.
In Kandarin, defeating a myth dragon, defeating a demonic gorilla, that sort of thing. If we go to your core end as an example, opening a grubby chest, getting swamp lizard shaman kills, and doing 25 chambers of Zarek. But your easiest pack points for you are actually going to come from Tyrannin, because these are things like black dragons, Volcano skilling boss, equipping a dark bow, and using a prayer altar to restore 90 prayer points.
Yep. Beautiful.
So that's where the points come from. And
okay.
I mean, overall, I would say start with the melee option probably. And then from there, based on what your regions are doing and how you're feeling, that then lets you decide which way to go probably after that. So,
yeah. And I don't have wilderness events to do my range this time.
Well, you have the lovely gemstone crab if you want an AFK combat option.
There you go.
But yeah, that's demonic pacts. And, overall, yikes. I think I have a grasp of it. My head was definitely scrambled, but I'm not committing to any sort of pact plan as it is right now. But
look, we could probably have a theory crafting episode just talking about pact builds.
Packs. Oh yeah.
I have spent way too much time looking at this tree already, and like I said, I've been trying to make the power fantasies that I want to work. I want my Drygor assault gun to work, but nope, not this time. I want my twisted bow to work. It actually does okay, but if you look at the DPS calculations, it doesn't. Yeah.
All right. Well, overall, I think we have broken the longest show record. So I will say
it's an honor to be here.
that how are we generally feeling as we head into this league a few days away from where it begins? Let's start with you, Dave.
I think this is probably the most balanced league we've ever seen. I think we were in a good spot in 4. I think they really improved at 5. But even just with the relic tiers, I think it is highly balanced, and I think it's great. All relic tiers, as much as I hate to admit it, should be a very hard decision. We've been spoiled with 4 and 5, where it's like, well, there's no question. Like, this is any other tier is a meme tier, or any other choice is a meme choice. So I think they really knocked it out of the park with balancing the relics, and I think it was a great idea. I'm a little bit, I don't want to say scared, but I'm a little bit apprehensive with how they're going to, or I guess where they're going to land with the region point caps, because it's kind of from last leagues, the lowest one was Candor at like 8,800, and then we had some that were in the higher, like 10,000. So I'm curious if they're going to delete some tasks, or if they're just going to add more to the lower regions, how that's going to translate into point values, because in leagues 4 we had the tiers were like 10 points, 40, 80, 200, and 400. And then they kind of dialed that back for 5 with really only changing 40 to 30. And then the other kind of thing I'm curious, and it's might play a little bit of last minute planning is where they're going to put their dragon tier threshold at, because I think
That
they're
can
going to
change plans,
probably
definitely. Yeah.
increase it a little bit more. Again, when I was doing my initial planning, I pulled all of the tasks from 4 and 5 and I combined them, or I compared them rather, and the only things that were different were just updates that had come out between the two leagues. So nothing changed other than like pirate zombies in the wilderness. Well, that wasn't out in Leagues 4, but it was 5, so they had that task added. So if they have a lot more, I calculated it all out. I'm able to reach dragon rank, not touching some of the tasks I don't want to. But if they're gonna just completely revamp it and increase maybe to like 62,000 or 65,000, that could really change some of these picks. So other than that, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's in a great place. Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. Sirion, how are you feeling? You think there's anything like Dave that's going to change your plans as we head into the final hours before go day?
Oh, look, task lists for sure, right? If Asgarnia turns out to be like 90% PVM task, then I don't want to spend half of leagues in the God Wars dungeon. So there's definitely task lists are always a big consideration, and we're not getting them early this time around. Like they used to send them early. But other than that, I completely agree with Dave, right? Like all of the options have been so hard. I have both been hating and loving it the last few days. Like I wish the choices were easier, but I feel that with every choice I make, I am missing out on something else. Like the FOMO for this one is absolutely real.
Well, like I
Um,
said, the only relic tier where we're all the same is tier 6 with culling spree.
Yeah, and I think that goes to show, and what I have been seeing people talk about, like everybody seems to be going different ones. There happen to be 3 people in the clan that are taking the same regions, but it happens, I think. And it's also really good to see that Kandarin last region was the meme region, and now it seems to be the place to go for most people because Magic is back. I am not sure how I feel yet about the demonic pacts. I think that's the biggest thing. Like I said, my mind sort of completely blanked when I saw it. I understand where they're coming from, right? Like last time, basically you had 3 tracks, you had 6 choices along each track, and you had 10 choices in total. You wanted to max one at least, and then most people picked like a second one that they put all the way up to 4. So realistically, there were only 6 choices, and that was seen as a problem. At the same time, I don't know if it's a problem, right? Like I feel they've gone a little bit overboard with the combat pacts, and I can see that leading to some frustration, right? Because
Well, yeah, because
you're always
there
going
is
to
a world where you soft lock yourself out of being able to do anything,
yeah.
easy until you get that first reset.
Yeah, exactly. So I we'll have to see where it ends up going. But look, looking through these, like even Leagues 5, I feel the choices for relics were much more obvious. And here, look at the differences here, and how differently we're solving the same thing. Like if you just scroll through them, like I love seeing all of the things just jumping around. That's how it should be. So I'm very excited. I think they nailed the releases. There was a lot of criticism when Jagex announced, going forward, leaks will always be, Trailblazer like with relics and region locks and all of that. And people were like, oh, they're all going to feel the same. And I think Leagues 5 did feel a little bit samey to Leagues 4,
Hmm.
but these relics feel completely fresh and completely new. And I think they have really shown that even within this formula, they can innovate, they can evolve, and yeah.
Okie dokie. Pern, has your mind been blown? You feel like you have a plan
Yeah,
after
I
being
mean,
here?
I'm not even thinking about the packs yet. I mean, they're just like you guys are going through that. I'm going, I don't understand jack shit on this, but anyway. Um, I mean, I love that you had hard choices on the relics. I mean, even from number one, like, I mean, number one in yep, everyone's going, 90% of people are going this way. These ones, and we saw the list where there was always such a dominant one pretty much all the way through. Yeah, this one here just it really makes you think on every single relic. And there's as you said, there's really not a wrong choice on any of them. So
It all comes down to how you want to play the game.
Exactly. And the region locking, I mean, I know you were pushing it on RS3 and I said, no. But you're right, it does make it interesting on that planning side of things. And even my regions that I've got, I mean, as you said, they're not 100% locked in until we see what the tasks are. I mean, as Garni, I might go through and say, Jesus, I'm not going to be able to do half those, so I will maybe swap to wilderness. It's I think it looks really good, and you've got a point down there. Game knowledge is king, and I think that is really what it's going to come down to. Once you see the tasks and studying into that and looking into everything. I didn't know about Korend having farming tasks and things, so that changed what I was thinking down the track on how I'm doing my training. So it's actually, for me to be excited about something on OSRS is a bit mind blowing.
There you have it, folks. And I guess that kind of pivots into our last thing. Should you play leagues? Like, if you're one of our RS3 listeners, should you play?
I would say give it a try.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. Kind of my story. I'm not going to go too far into it, but I had kind of always been not against OSRS, but I started playing in '04 with RS2, and EOC was fine. When Old School came out, I wasn't against it, but I didn't want to start over, right? Because I was like pretty freshly maxed going for comp. So I was like, sunk cost fallacy type thing. But I did play around with it, and I did the optimal quest guide on the wiki, and I just kind of just chunked some stuff out and gave me kind of a task list, so to speak, to do. And it wasn't until Leagues 4, which is really what got me into playing the game, because Hero Pass had just come out, the H word, and and then I think it was that November, I had just finished Optimal Quest List, and I hopped right into Leagues 4.
It took you from the start of September until in November to finish that Optimal Quest Guide?
No. I had been working on the Optimal Quest Guide for probably over a year, just here and there when I wasn't doing something in RS3.
Like
I was on Ultimate.
When the H thing came out, and then it took you a month and a half to...
No. It was basically after I kind of got to a space, after I trimmed in RS3, I was just I didn't have much else to do, and I wasn't going to sit there and go for Insane Final Boss or anything like that. So I just kind of went into, Old School, spent a couple years just pitter-pattering around with the Optimal Quest Guide. But yeah, my first real, I'm putting RS3 to the side and I'm focusing in was Leagues 4, and it got me that game knowledge, right? Stuff I didn't know before, I was introduced to in Leagues. Whether it was experiencing it or researching it on the wiki and finding, oh, this is a thing, cool. And it really, after Leagues 4, I was like, okay, I have enough knowledge to really just start building my account kind of in the main game, and, the rest is history. So absolutely, you should play. Yes.
And I think, Sirion, you have a similar story that you started with Leagues 4 as well, in earnest.
Yeah, I did indeed. I was already playing for a while. I think I was already committed to Old School at that point. I was just loving doing the quests and all of the nostalgia. And for me, it was freshly coming back to the game that rediscovering the game I had actually fallen in love with, rather than the game I had kept playing because that's the thing you did. And Leagues 4 was I think the first moment where I was like, oh, so that's what this is about. Oh, that's what the community, does. And like that's when I started understanding a lot of things. That's also when I started understanding, oh, so this is what Iron Men encounter, right? Like this is sort of the problem solving that they do. And I've been playing on and off on Iron Man since, not a lot lately, but yeah. That said, my experience with Leagues 4 was so completely different to Leagues 5 and 6. And I think that's sort of where I would start like adding some reservations to when people say, oh, should you just come in completely fresh, not knowing anything about old school and play leagues right away? I mean, you can, but I don't think you will have quite the same experience as somebody who knows the game, right?
Yeah.
I think if you come in completely fresh, you need to set your targets and goals really low, and you need to accept that you're going to make suboptimal choices and you're going to miss a lot of things. And
like I'll say that I didn't know
Go.
how to play leagues until I did Raging Echoes, and then I refined that in the RS3 league, and I'm wanting to see if that works here too. So
yeah, exactly. Like you're like game knowledge, you're gonna learn a lot, but you're going to need a lot as well if you want to be efficient. So it's gonna sort of loop in on itself. So keep that in mind. And I think another thing that it's not representative of the main game, right? Like your experience, like old school is a slow game. In many skills, the grinds are a lot slower, and you're not going to have that experience. But also, you're going to be so powerful, even if you don't pick like the most optimal demonic pact build. You're going to be so powerful, like your PVM experience is not going to be representative either. So,
right.
And that's another thing I'll say is don't be worried about stepping into PVM stuff. I didn't step into the Fire Cape on both OS leagues until like week 3 or week 4. But the reality is you're going to have enough power to do it probably by the 3rd or 5th day.
Yeah, exactly. So go out and try things. It is a great thing to sort of know what's out there. Just don't expect that if you can do it on leagues, you can do it on the main game, because that's definitely not true.
Not the main game, the official private server game. Thank you. Main game's RS3.
Oh my god. So that is sort of my reservations, and as well, like if you want to sort of experience the quests, like a lot of them are going to be auto skipped. You're gonna do some quests out of context, out of order, and it's all going to be a little bit funny.
You're going to find out why the Myrek are dead if you choose Mauritania.
Well, no, you're not going to find out, but they are dead. That's sort of the problem you're going to run into, I think. But I think it is, if you go in with not too many expectations, I think it is definitely worth just giving it a try and seeing what it's all about. I think the starting region, Varlamore, is also the best that old school has to offer right from the get-go. So in terms of PVM, in terms of skilling, it has everything that you would expect from like modern standard.
If you combine that with Corrin, you can have a full game experience, pretty much.
Yes.
So you say I chose right for my first
I think
foray.
So. I think so. But we're gonna wrap this up quickly here. So we do have a few achievements this week. We have Lady Claw with 200 mil Hunter on the 10th. Rhino got 120 Cooking, which consequently was his 120 all on April 10th. Double Eye Rill with 99 ranged on the 5th, and Iron VSS with 99 Runecrafting on April 4th.
On April 4th, we had, I'm going to guess it's Juan Peru. I'm going to, all right, okay. For 200 mil Constitution, we have Stinky Pete 22 getting 120 Invention on April the 3rd. And then we have 2 achievements on April the 2nd. We have both Black Nex Ken getting 120 Prayer and Chimney Lax getting 120 Thieving.
All right, and then to round us out, I don't know if this is a typo or not, but Pugnacious got Ace the Hunter pet on April 10th. Juan Peru got Glimmering Scale, which is the Rarvek pet. and the Game Over feat, which is the Grigorovic log, which is pretty impressive, on April 9th. And then on April 4th, Juan Peru again got the Imbued Blade Slice, which is the Venditti pet on April 4th. So very good.
Pugnacious is my that's my Iron Man account.
Okay, I figured it seemed pretty deliberate, so yeah, we went with it.
Perfect.
Very good.
All right, Sirion, you're going to shock everybody with a pick of the week.
I must confess something to all of you. I grew up playing video games. That's not the confession, but I never, ever played a Pokemon game.
But you were also a Nintendo kid.
I was a Nintendo kid, and I played Pokemon Snap a lot as a kid, but that's not like
that was
a mainline Pokemon
N64, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, N64.
It wasn't like the original like Pokemon style games.
No, exactly. I think over 2 years ago at this point for Clan Quest, I did like a charity stream where I played like a Pokemon game on like an emulator for the first time, but nothing like for real. But last weekend I was out visiting my parents for Easter, and I had my Switch with me, and I bought. It's now available on Switch, Pokemon Fire Red, because I liked the uniques better, and also Charmander is great. I picked my Charmander, which is probably technically the worst starter by weaknesses, but it is Charmander. So
I mean, when you're choosing between fire, water, and grass, I would default to fire myself too.
Yeah, but if you look at the first few gyms, I think grass or water is going to be better. But it's Charmander. You have to pick Charmander. It's the rules, right? I've been playing this quite a lot. I've been enjoying it. I mean, it is old and it's showing its age, but it is weird.
It's a game
to
from
feel
2004.
nostalgic. It feels weird. Yeah, well, yeah. So Fire Red is a remake of Red, which was the very first Pokemon game. So it is a little bit more modern, but it's showing its age at this point, and it feels weird feeling nostalgic for a game you've never played. But like you hear like the battle music, the graphics, the Pokemon. I mean, I did watch the TV show, of course, so there's a certain level of nostalgia despite never playing this game. And it feels great sort of discovering all of this for the first time myself. And I'm looking some things up. I don't want to spend ages like looking in every nook and cranny for secrets, but I'm also trying to go sort of find my own path. I haven't looked up like these are the best Pokemon you need to get, and this is like the list of moves. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't make any major mistakes and don't miss anything. But I've been exploring things, and I've been loving it. So it's now available on Switch. It's a little bit of a ripoff for this price. Let's be honest. They haven't changed anything.
$30 Canadian. I don't know what that works out to US or euros.
It was 20 euros. So yeah, it is a little bit of a ripoff, but I love being able to have it on my Switch because I could have played it on an emulator, but this is one of the things I just like taking along with me on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very weird pick, but it's what I've been enjoying last weekend. And if you have never played a Pokemon game, I think the Fire Red and Leaf Green games are not a bad place to start. They are still very classic and traditional, but they are not as jank as the ones before it. So I think for me, they sort of hit the sweet spot where, they're nostalgic, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, my Pokemon experience is Yellow, Silver, and Gold, and then I stopped.
Yeah. I stopped around Ruby, I think, so just one more generation passed. But after that, it was the DS thing. I had a DS, but I didn't play it much, and the whole concept was weird to me, so I didn't get into Diamond and Pearl. But no, I did enjoy the first three generations.
Yeah, they're
so,
good.
Very good pick.
Like I could totally see a world where I, throw, dozens of hours into one of these as well. It's just I haven't up to this point. And
it is also time just disappeared for me. Like my parents were like going away for like something, and they're like, we'll be back in 3 hours. And I was just playing away, and like they came back in and were like, it's only been an hour. Oh. Like this is like the kind of game that And just a little anecdote, like if you know this game well enough, then you know what a pain this was. So I went into the Viridian Forest, which is one of the first zones, and the very first wild Pokemon that came out was a Pikachu. I'm like, I've got to get the Pikachu, right? Like, come on,
That's
you've
rare.
got to catch Pikachu.
It is rare.
And I hit it to weaken it so I could catch it.
Then it ran
and
away.
Crit, and it crit, and it killed the Pikachu. I'm like, damn. All right,
After
okay,
all
no,
that.
Pikachu fainted. They don't die in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
game, I guess. But like, I was like, oh shit. So then I spend hours catching wild Pokemon because there's a 5% spawn chance on Pikachu. Like, I had to look it up because I thought I was hallucinating.
Mhm.
I think I killed like 400 or 500 like wild before I found like another Pikachu, which I did catch in the end.
That's
And it was-
that's the old school mindset too. We got collection logs in Pokemon before we knew what collection logs were.
Exactly. But I was so miffed that I found like this rare Pokemon, like it was the first spawn in the grass, and then I accidentally just killed it and I couldn't get it to spawn again.
Yeah.
Do they have breeding in that one? Or did that come later?
No, they don't. They don't. But yeah, I was using like Charmander because like it's all bug types to just like
Oh,
I
yeah.
gained like 10, 15 levels, which is great. It's going to help me later on. It's not wasted time, but
Yeah, that's funny.
Now, just imagine if Leagues was running and you had a computer or an iPad next to you, you're running with Endless Harvest.
There you go.
Yo, you're making me reconsider again.
Well, folks, that pretty much brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for being here. Thank you for putting up with the old school. We need to do these ones because, you know, it's always fun to go into what a league is going to be. And I'm going to be spending a significant amount of time around the OS League over the next number of weeks. But don't worry, we'll be back next week. We will be talking about the aura removal, the rendering changes, and we'll be sprinkling in the league's coverage from time to time on the show. And maybe, just maybe, depending on how the packs go, we might have to do that combat theory crafting episode once we all get all our feet wet. So we'll see. We'll see. Let us know what you guys think. If you like this, if you want more of it, if you never want to hear from this panel again, then write hate mail.
You
No,
can
don't
also
do that.
say
We're quite the
so,
motley crew.
but at least please be nice about it. That
Yeah.
would be...
Let us down easy, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a wonderful panel, and you guys have all been here for years in various roles, and it's just nice to see a bit of a breadth on the old school side when considering at one point it was just Sirion and myself, and then we roped Dave into the coverage, and now we have Pern, and we'll just wait and see where that goes.
Hopefully League 6 is good to you, Pern, so we can have you back on more regular shows.
We'll see how it goes, yes.
If you want the episodes as they arrive, update.show/subscribe. We're on all the major podcast listening services out there, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, and more. And, of course, YouTube as well at youtube.com/RSBANDB. Do give us a like and subscribe. Greatly means the world to us. And, of course, share the shows as well. But we'll be back next week. As I mentioned, thank you, Sirion. Always good having you on.
It was a lot of fun talking about this. The fact that this is all going much longer than we expected is very representative of my last week. So today I've been trying to do housework around the house because I'm trying to get everything in order so that next weekend, if I know live leaks, nothing goes wrong here.
There you
But
go.
every single time I was like, oh, but what if I pick this relic, or what if I pick this? And I ran back to my PC and try and work it out. And long story short, my housework is still not done.
It's preemptively seeping into the time you've already blocked out to play League, so yeah, here it is.
And I mean, this episode is definitely the longest one, too. I just had to do a double take in my watch to see where we were.
Oh, my God.
But we have the space. We have the space to do it. And, you know, we have transcripts now, too. And I'll get to Pern and Dave's outro, but I was alluding to things that you can do with the transcript. And if you really just want the Cole's Notes version of Update, take the transcript that we have and throw it into your favorite large language model, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever one's your favorite one. Just pass that transcript to it and ask for a summary of what we talked about. I hate to distill the show down like that, but it's one of the things you could do. So.
I mean, you now also have so much footage of us from like the past few hours that you could even run like a deep fake model on us, and you could have us
Walk you through the League and like be your guide, yeah.
You know, I considered doing that for April Fools, but I didn't have the tools and credits to make a AI update. But Pern, thank you for being here. Hope you enjoy the league.
Yeah, it's all good. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, it sounds exciting. So hopefully we'll see a lot of people out there.
And of course, Dave, always good having you on, and thank you for the wonderful music that the listeners are about to hear very shortly.
Yeah, of course. No, I always enjoy these sort of episodes. I appreciate being invited on, and I always like to hear everybody else's kind of opinion because I kind of get tunnel vision a bit with my, paths and relic choices. But to hear, not necessarily convincing me, but it's like, yeah, there is a point where there's a 5% chance I take Soul Harvest, where I was just like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm taking that. So I always like to kind of see where everybody else lands. Because again, I can get my blinders on. So no, it's always good to be here and always good to discuss this sort of thing. So love leagues and love theory crafting.
Wonderful. And with that being said, we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Happy Skype and all.